Welcome back to the Castaway Consultants, where we teach future Survivor players how to play the game while criticizing current and former players. On this go-around, we are criticizing those former players. On this podcast episode, we are going to be launching off into Survivor 24 One World. I am your host, one of three, named Josh Wessler, and I am joined today by two other fabulous co-hosts, Derek Kupacek and Ryan Stacy.
Hey everyone, I'm your resident Survivor superfan, Ryan Stacy, who knows everything there is to know about Survivor and knows this season sucks.
And I'm Derek, and my role on these rewinds is I haven't seen a lot of them. We're coming to the end of the days where I haven't seen them. 27 and onward I have seen, so everyone enjoy 24, 25, and 26, because those are the last times where I'm unfamiliar of what's going on in the middle. Any spoilers I will discuss right as we get into the spoiler section that I think I might know, but obviously we're not going to do anything post-merge today. This is all about One World's pre-merge.
Yep, just the pre-merge. Then we have Josh, who is our memorability consultant.
That I am, and this is going to be this is kind of where it starts to get a little weird.
Yes.
Because up until now, like we're looking way back when I first watched these seasons, and I mean even with like the last couple, it's starting to inch up closer and closer to present day when I hadn't when it hasn't been too long since I've seen some of these. Well, now, especially for the next 2 or 3 seasons, they're very recent actually. So this one I actually watched in May of 2021.
Yeah, so right after Winners at War.
Yep. Right after Winners at War finished, I finished the rest of the seasons that I had not yet seen, and that's basically where we are at today. So a little fresh. It's only been a year and a half, basically, less than a year and a half. We'll see if it even matters with some of these seasons like this one, though.
That is the only reason in our little game where you are trying to remember the cast members that you did so well, because One World does not have a memorable cast.
Yeah, ended up getting 9, I think it was,
9
for
out
this
of 18,
one.
half of them.
Which is impressive.
Yep.
It's impressive, but at the same time, is it?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say...
it's only been, like 15, 16 months, something like that?
I was going to say, even I recognize 5, but I guess that's almost getting into spoilers.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a moment. I just want to remind everybody that when you're listening to this, Season 43 just finished, so congratulations to the winner of Season 43. We don't know who that is yet because we're recording it before.
Oh, we totally know who it was, and they played an amazing game.
Oh, yeah.
And they deserve their win. I didn't like that production, again, didn't learn their lesson on some of these twists. So we'll see what those twists are. I'm just assuming that they exist.
Guys, can you believe that they went and ended up just doing the final challenge from season 1 again?
I can't believe that Nora said that.
I can't believe that they stayed on Fiji. Wait, I can believe that. So that's when you're listening to this in the timeline, but we were recording to this before season 43. So if there's something like that echoed season 24 perfectly on season 43 and we don't mention it, that's why.
If season 43 is a One World themed season,
maybe.
Sorry for not mentioning
That would
it.
be kind of fun. I'd be okay with that.
You know, that would make it really interesting for the listeners and maybe even more interesting for us because we'd be so fresh off watching it. But yeah, this is the last day of August that we're recording this.
What this podcast is, there's a lot of Survivor, 43 seasons, that when you're listening to this, you may not have time to watch them all or rewatch them all. So we're here to rewatch them for you so you don't have to. So you can pick and choose which ones to watch. So that begs the question, is Survivor One World must-watch Survivor? We're through the pre-merge, 6 episodes in. Gentlemen, is this must-watch Survivor?
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's a big old nope.
No. Just rewatch the pre-merge for Amazon and pretend that basically the same stuff happens, except it's far less offensive, far less frustrating, far fewer stupid moves. Survivor One World pre-merge, it might be one of my least favorite halves of a season that I've watched, and I've seen almost every season of Survivor now. Obviously, season 39, that one's up there. I think that might be the worst. There are moments elsewhere, but this I just didn't like it. It was very mean. It was very vitriolic. It was very condescending, and not in like the entertainment way. It was just like, all of this is pointless. We're just not being good humans. Like there's Survivor mean, and then there's just mean. And I feel like we were just mean.
I'm running through all the halves of every Survivor season in my head right now. I think I'm going to put this one as last. This is the worst half of a Survivor season, the worst phase of any game. Second place, Derek got bad news. You haven't seen it yet. It's one of the very few you haven't seen.
How can 39 not be number 1 or 2?
Because 39 at least had a great finale. It has a redeeming quality.
Does all of that bad stuff happen just after the merge? Or?
Yeah, just after the merge.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say 26's pre-merge is probably the second worst. But this one I think will probably be the worst half of any season.
Wonderful.
The only other one I could throw in there is maybe like the Redemption Island post-merge. That one I'd throw in there too.
And that one's just boring. It's
boring.
not offensive. I mean, there's some stuff in it you don't like, but like it's not offensively bad.
But I think I will plant my flag, at least at this point in this part of the rewatch. This is my least favorite section of any Survivor season ever.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and if I jump in here to finally give my opinion on it, and I feel like I didn't dislike this season as much as like what you guys are talking about. Now, there's no way that I'd be able to recommend it at all. So not must-watch Survivor. Also, the one thing that you would maybe watch it for is the one world twist, just, you know, in case they do that again. But the likelihood of that happening is so low.
1 out of 42.
You don't need to worry about it. So go on with your lives and just listen to this podcast.
Yeah, I think Survivor production incorrectly blames, because I don't think they liked this season either. They got a very, negative everything. So I don't think they were fans. But I think they're going to blame it mistakenly on the one world twist itself, which we'll get into in a moment. I think that's incorrect. Also, we've done this twist before. Back in Thailand, we had the one world twist very briefly after the merge, or right before the merge, I guess. It was a fake merge.
Yep,
a little bit.
And that's what I was thinking about. But this was on the beach to begin with. You go through this whole like rigmarole of like dividing up and taking different paths to the camp and everything like that. But you're going to live with each other.
Which is the best part of this season.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a good twist idea. So basically, for those of you who don't know, the one world twist is everyone lives on the same beach together. Both camps, both tribes, they are on the same beach. They're neighbors, basically. And then they see what happens. And that's a great idea. If only it was used with a better cast.
Yeah, it's a great twist to add to the game that doesn't change the actual mechanics of it. You can do so many like new and interesting things that are just small tweaks that keep it interesting. So I wish they'd give this another shot.
Well, from here on out, spoiler alert, this is not a recommendation from us. So unless you're watching all the seasons, don't watch this one. This pre-merge is just god awful.
We'll tell you everything you need to know about how to handle a one world situation.
Just in case it does pop up again. But yeah, this is not a must-watch, not a recommendation from us. So spoiler alert from here on out. Let's go over this cast real quick. 9 of the 18, Josh remembered. We'll get all 18 of them in here for you. Is this the worst cast of all time? It might be. Pound for pound, it's either this one or Redemption Island, the two worst casts in all of Survivor, I would say.
I mean, there's certainly some like rotting meat in here, in my opinion.
There's a couple of people I like. Like, I genuinely like. There's one who has not played again, who I would really like to see play again. But this is not a great cast. But we're going to go over them for you right now. So the other big twist this season is this is a men versus women season, which I think is why One World doesn't quite pan out the way we would like to see. I think that just makes too many divisions. It's interesting. So if they did a one World again, I would like to see it not men versus women.
Yeah, just co-ed.
Just co-ed. I think their thought process is like, people get confused about who's on which tribe. Yeah. I think some people might.
That's what color coordinating your clothing does, though.
I think that's the way to go.
And you can still do separate shelters. I mean, there are plenty of ways to get around this. I mean, a person like Tarzan is going to struggle with that. But, I mean, for everyone else, just figure it out. Quarterbacks don't throw to the other team. Generally speaking, they don't try to. It's not because they mistook someone.
Yeah, ideally, you don't have someone who has memory loss, basically, on a season.
I wonder if they did that on purpose. That would have been kind of funny.
Or what? It's a name condition.
Nominal aphasia.
Yeah. So he just can't remember names.
Yeah, he's troubled names. Yeah, so I would like, I'm fine with them trying men versus women for the first One World, but I really wish we get a second One World where that isn't the case.
And we've discussed in the past that we're not going to get a men's versus women's season on Survivor again.
I don't think so. Not anymore.
That'd be pretty surprising.
Yeah. I just don't think we will.
Well, I mean, with the diversity initiative alone, it just doesn't make sense.
Men versus women versus non-binary.
I'm here for it.
I mean, we did Cook Islands, so
it's only slightly less offensive, I guess.
That's the only thing I could. Yeah, I don't think we'll get that, but I think that's the only way they would ever go. But I really don't think we'll get a men versus women season again. But let's go over. We have the Manano tribe, which is the 9 men. So we have Bill Posley, a stand-up comedian from Los Angeles. Colton Cumbie, a college student from Alabama. Jay Byers, a model from South Carolina. Jonas Atsuji, a sushi chef from Utah. Leif Manson, a phlebotomist from San Diego. Matt Quinlan, an attorney from San Francisco, and probably Derek's winter pick.
Oh, yes.
Michael Jefferson, a banker from Seattle. Tarzan Smith, a plastic surgeon from Houston. And Troyzan Robertson, a swimsuit photographer from Miami. So we have a Tarzan and Troyzan.
Great choices here by casting.
They did it on purpose.
100%. That's
100%, but it was stupid.
It's kind of funny that they did something like that. Okay, and then we have the Solani tribe, which is the women. We have Alicia Rosa, a special education teacher from Chicago. Chelsea Meissner, a medical saleswoman from South Carolina. Christina Cha, a career consultant from Hollywood. Kat Ederson, a timeshare representative from Orlando. Kim Spradlin, a bridal shop owner from San Antonio. Courtney Moon, a motorcycle repairwoman from Austin, Texas. Monica Culpepper, an ex-NFL player's wife from Tampa, Florida. Nina Acosta, a retired LAPD officer from California. And Sabrina Thompson, a high school teacher from New York. That is our 18, our motley crew, most of whom are terrible.
Yeah, this is not
most of whom don't matter.
Not a strong cast, and yet we're gonna get 5 returners out of this.
Yeah, we're gonna get 5 returners from this season. It's crazy, but we're only gonna spoil some of those today.
Yes,
because 2 of them are from the pre-merge. What? Go figure.
That's never worked out for Survivor before.
All right, you guys ready to jump into these episodes?
Let's just do it.
Yep.
Episode 1, 2 tribes, 1 camp, no rules. There's no law when you're drinking the claw.
There's no law when you're in One World.
Survivor One World, sponsored by White Claw. So this is, they're all brought in a truck and they're told it's a men versus women season. And we have a kind of a marooning. The teams have 1 minute to get as much supplies off this truck as they can. Michael, go ahead and pulls a real classic Michael move. Shout out to our buddy Michael. He's stealing stuff from the women's tribe that they take off the truck, and he just like sneaks over there, grabs some like a giant pickaxe, and brings it back to his tribe. And no one spots him doing this. So make sure if you're doing a marooning that you keep your eyes out for that kind of shenanigan.
No rules.
No rules.
It was pretty funny. It reminded me of Rupert. You know,
we peaked early. The high point of the season is Michael stealing crap from the other tribe.
Oh, and the poetic justice of the whole thing as well.
Yeah.
But yes, that was very funny. But then the next part actually made me laugh even harder, because we're going to begin a trek where the Solani tribe goes in one direction and the Manano tribe goes in another direction, but we're all going to converge, coalesce at the same tribe, at the same beach. And the men had to carry everything that they stole.
Yep.
All this extra weight.
Immediate regrets.
On the way to camp, we do get an alliance of 5 that's made on the women's side. Alicia, Kim, Chelsea, Kat, and Sabrina all just grab each other and make an alliance. So, hey, be part of one of these if you can. They can be powerful.
The game is already afoot.
Yep.
Well, and we don't get a lot of hikes anymore.
No.
But if you do end up getting a hike, like, this is the perfect time to do it, because you're not usually bunched up. So, talk 1-on-1 or 2-on-1 with someone.
5-on-1
seems like a great opportunity.
Yeah, even just sharing a glance every now and again. You can say a lot with the eyes.
Yep.
We've heard many alliances have been just created by 2 people sharing an understanding across from the fire.
So when they get to camp, they find 2 chickens that definitely were not placed here by production.
Wow, look at these chickens just randomly by our beach. What a coincidence.
Okay, where does One World take place again?
Oh, God. Is it in Samoa? I'm pretty sure it's Samoa.
In Chicken Land.
Yeah, they filmed it on famous Chicken Island. Damn.
The only person that lives there is Chicken
Samoa.
from
season
something. I don't remember what season.
China.
So they were native Samoan chickens.
Yes.
And they're definitely here, not planted by production at all.
So the tribes agree, hey, we'll work together, we'll catch them, we each take 1. Chelsea, who is a farm girl, she catches both of them, but, like, they use people as, like, people are standing all over the place, guys and women, to, like, funnel the chickens.
Yeah, they herded them.
So it's not like Chelsea did this all on her own. But she is going to refuse to hand them over. The women's tribe as a whole is going to refuse to hand over any chickens. I don't love this, because you guys, now you're going to be on the same beach. So with Michael, he did a really risky move by stealing stuff, but he didn't get caught. So good for him. Chelsea, you are the face of this. If you don't go through with this deal, guys are going to remember that. And that just makes you look bad. It would be a different case if you could get away with this and be anonymous. So if you were anonymously not going to let them have a chicken, that's a whole different can of worms. But since they know it's you got to hand over the chicken. Otherwise, it's bad for your game. The best move for Chelsea, hand over a chicken. That was the agreement that was made.
It was weird. As I was watching it, I almost felt like this was a wash for the fact that Mike had stolen stuff. And there was only one of these like prospecting pickaxe tools. It was obvious that it had been stolen because there was only one, and the women lost theirs, right? So in my head, this is a wash. But like you mentioned, Chelsea's face is plastered all over this where there is no idea to know which guy did it. All this is really doing is it's fuel for some acrimony. It's fuel for some animosity.
Yeah.
And I think if you're Chelsea, you need to be really careful. Like, okay, we're actually at camp now. We know what the theme of the season is. I best be prepared for them not want to help us at all if we're going to do this early.
Maybe I think the best move would be like, hey, yes, you can have a chicken. We want to share the pickaxe. Both tribes get to use it. That seems fair, and I think that would be a fair trade.
I think I would even just ask for the pickaxe. Be like, I know you stole the pickaxe. Let us have that. You can have the chicken. Fair enough? Fair enough. Cool. Squash it like adults, but we don't have any adults on this cast, so...
I doubt that would work just because of the other stuff that ends up coming up with potential trades, but... Yeah, I don't know. When I was watching it, I didn't really feel like Chelsea came off super negatively. I think that she played it off well enough to basically, because I think she used the words, let me talk it over with the girls. Yeah. So it made it seem like it was more of just like a decision by the women's tribe as a whole that would cause them being the men to then, blame the entire tribe instead of just Chelsea.
Sure, but Chelsea's the main face on this one.
Yeah. And I'm just saying the way that it played out didn't seem like it came that it was really poorly reflected on her.
And I know that this is non-sequential, but I want to talk about this now. In the pre-merge, we're going to see several times where the tribes are going to intermingle in a transactional basis. And most of those transactional discussions are the men's tribe giving something to the women's tribe and the women's tribe refusing to give something to the men's tribe. Now, I understand I'm coming into this with a total male bias.
Yes.
And I recognize that. And I also know that there is an edit. And so that edit might just be feeding into this idea of the men are doing all of these things and they're taking pity on the women and the women are just being stone cold and, very calculated and not giving anything that might strengthen the men. There's a lot of bias here.
Tons.
But I have to say it was really frustrating for me to watch this over and over again where it's like, can we have an ember to the fire? Okay, yeah, here's an ember. And a guy would just take it upon themselves to give the women the ember. And the guy's tribe wasn't mad about that. It was just like, okay, whatever, it's fine. Or, cool, we're all living here together. We have to be civil. We have to build bonds some way or another. And then it would be like, hey, can we use your fishing net? You can have half of the fish we catch. And the women are like, no.
Well, we're jumping ahead here. There's a lot of transactional stuff. And I don't want to write all of them off as this because I think there's at least one where the women shut it down that I think was good.
And I understand that depending on the situation, you need to think about it from a survivor game aspect. But it was just so heavily skewed. As a first-time viewer watching this, I was like, this just feels a little icky. So that was just me. That's my male perspective. And I would love to hear, I know that roughly 45% of our listeners are female. Please, if you remember this or if you watched it recently, chime in and let us know how you felt watching the pre-merge of One World, because I genuinely am curious. We are just three guys on this podcast without this perspective. And my wife was not watching this one with me, so I didn't even get her perspective this time.
Yeah, so... Derek was off making her do housework, and Derek was just sitting around watching Survivor.
No.
While also
that is not true for the record. That is not true.
And I'll tell everyone what was actually happening. Sarah was working on graduate school. She's getting her master's in curriculum planning, and so I was taking the baby downstairs and having Survivor on while I was interacting with our 8-month-old son, and Sarah was working on school.
So Derek was watching Survivor instead of properly taking care of his son. Got it.
Like we're supposed to do. We're supposed to do.
We're just slandering Derek's character in this episode.
Who was it who threw their kid off of their house into a snow pile in order to get an audition for Survivor? I don't remember who that was, but they're my hero.
All right. Well, no, Derek's next audition tape is going to be.
Yeah.
It'll be my son's legs sticking out of a snow pile.
So on the guys' tribe, Colton doesn't feel like he fits in with the tribe very well. So Colton is gay. Kind of like flamboyant, I guess. One of the sassy, I guess would be the words I would use to describe Colton. Bitchy. Colton sucks. Colton is terrible. But we're not quite at Colton being awful yet. We're not there yet. So Colton fits in more with the girls' tribe. He's more comfortable with them, but he doesn't really try to fit in with the guys' tribe. He just kind of immediately assumes they aren't going to accept him and goes over and hangs out with the girls' tribe.
And kind of whines and pisses and moans about the fact that it ended up being a men's versus women's season. Now, we are all for complaining in confessionals.
Yep.
We are all for, airing your grievances to the producers behind the camera, right? It makes for good TV. And we always acknowledge, like, oh, yeah, you complained about it, but it was only in confessional. You still got to make the best of the situation.
He does not.
Colton is not actually in a bad situation at all.
No.
The cut in the male tribe is for muscle hunks.
That's not 100% true.
Interesting.
Okay, so we'll get into that in a second.
But okay, how about this? I'll just say, like,
The edit.
Colton thinks that he's just hopeless.
Yep.
But time will prove him wrong. He is absolutely not.
I do want to say, from my perspective, yes, he was complaining a lot about how this entire thing is shaking up, as what happens on every single time that they do a men's versus women's season. There's always someone who ends up being frustrated by it because it screws with their game plan that they're going to have, whatever. But if I remember correctly, he was more complaining about this stuff to the women's tribe more than his own tribe.
Yes.
So I actually don't see it as that big of a negative. Like, yes, ideal situation is that you're complaining like in a confessional and whatnot and not actually in the game at all. But I think complaining to the women's tribe could make him nice and close to them, as long as he's not making it super obvious to the people on his own tribe,
which he is,
that all that is happening.
And that's where the criticism comes in, because, I mean, yeah, it's not that bad of a move if you make it to the merge, but we always talk on this podcast how if you can come to a nice, easy consensus first boot,
the guy who's not spending any time with the tribe,
and not doing any work around camp, and is just like, making inroads with the women's tribe and not interested in them at all. Yeah, that's an easy first boot. So like, this is abysmal gameplay.
So it's funny. Colton, he's not going to really even, it seems like, try to bond with any of these people on his tribe. At least at first. I know it's not shown on the edit. I know he gets pretty close to Jay at some point during this pre-merge. But interestingly, Bill, who has a giant feud with, Bill is bisexual. Like, Colton's not the only queer person on this tribe, and I feel like maybe if he bothered to, like, get to know people, he might have learned that.
He partitioned himself off early on, and it's not in a tribal council now, but it is going to happen in the future, where he's going to say, I felt like I was an outsider immediately. They ostracized me, and then someone responded and said, no, you didn't give us a chance to prove you wrong. You didn't give us a chance to bring you in. If you
judged
felt on the way out. Yeah.
Bill's like, you judged all of us, and shut us all off.
Which I know there's a lot we didn't see, but I believe Bill on this one. So it was really frustrating. And I want to go back just a little bit to add a little more color. We were talking about how Colton is gay and he's the more flamboyant. I'll say, like, if you don't know anything about the LGBTQ community, he's like the stereotypical gay man, like the 90s gay, the sassy best friend from any 2000s Hallmark movie ever. So like, that is the outward appearance. It's a little bit of a caricature, which is how casting happens in reality television sometimes. That is not why we dislike Colton. We kind of jumped straight from he's that and we can't stand him. That is not at all the reason why. It's because of how he is so mean. He's just not a nice person on this season. He's
very classist. He's from a very wealthy Southern family. They kind of call him like a country club kid. So he definitely has some very classist attitudes, and with some hints of potential racism in there. Yeah. If not, it might just be ignorance, but it could be racism.
Hey, ignorance is still racism. It's just not necessarily meant to be like hurtful racism. It just is.
Yep.
So
Colton sucks.
Yes. So I just wanted to clarify that for any listeners out there. We just don't like people who are mean for the sake of being mean, and that's what Colton is on this season.
Colton has a very nasty attitude.
Yes.
And he takes things too far.
Oh my goodness. And we'll get into that.
On the guys' tribe, we're presented as an alliance of four is made. The four stud muffins in the tribe. Matt, Bill, Jay, and Michael all make an alliance with Matt as their leader. And everybody ridiculed them at the time for, like, there's 9 people in this tribe. You made an alliance of 4. They actually made an alliance of 5. The 5th guy was Troyzan, because Troyzan is a little older, but he's also, kind of an alpha stud bro. But just an older one.
Also, one of my favorite audition tapes of all time. Go check that one out. There's very few you should watch. That one's one of them.
It's not shown to us in the show, but they know how to do math. They had Troy Zan as their 5th. So that they were unfairly portrayed here. So I'm going to give them credit for making an alliance.
So they are not like Chanel in season 42.
Yep. They can do math.
They can do
Troy
math.
Zan didn't go with them in the end.
Yes.
This alliance doesn't go well for them in the pre-merge.
Also, Matt's an attorney, which is hilarious. Everyone on the podcast who's listened, they know how I feel about attorneys playing Survivor.
So Jay makes fire without Flint. Good for him. And the girls come over and they're like, hey, can you come help us with the fire or give us just an ember? No dice, because they're like, hey, you didn't give us any chickens. And they're like, oh, we'll give you a chicken now if you help us with the fire. Like, that wasn't the deal. You were supposed to give us a chicken before, not after. Alicia even tries to steal the fire. Does not work. But during the night, Monica and Christina come in, steal an ember, and get back to their camp. But it's out by morning.
Come on. If you're going to go through all the work of stealing it, you got to at least keep it alive.
I think if I could describe the women's tribe of the season, it's hapless. They're a very hapless tribe.
Yeah, I think that's a very good word to describe at least these first 5 episodes or 6 episodes.
It's kind of cartoonish how inept they're portrayed as. And I don't know how accurate this edit was, but yeah, they have problems. They have one of the roughest starts for any tribe in Survivor history.
100%, and a lot of it is self-inflicted.
Yes.
And like I said, you can watch Survivor Amazon, and the same thing kind of happens there, where the women's tribe is, we'll say, a little bit hapless, a little bit haphazard. They're leaderless.
Yep.
They have no organization for camp life, and there isn't as much of a desire to go out and do all that work.
In Amazon.
In Amazon, yes. Yep.
Because that's not true here.
Agreed. And I was going to say, the young people in Amazon in particular, they wanted to treat it more like a vacation.
Yep. Christina ends up making a deal. In exchange for fire, the women will weave 20 palm fronds for the men's shelter. So, great. We got a deal. We have an accord. For whatever reason, Alicia gets so pissed off at Christina for making this deal and just goes into rage mode about how much she hates Christina. Alicia is the other person I can't stand from this season. She and Colt make this season miserable to watch. They just have these nasty attitudes and really personal stuff that just has no place here. And I don't get why she's so mad at Christina.
There must be more here, because we don't really get a whole lot of people defending Christina. And I don't know if it was just because let Alicia have her outlet, we're going to drag her along, and she's our GOAT forever. She'll clearly not win because she's got a bad attitude, and then, sorry, Christina, you're just a victim of that. But yeah, it doesn't really end up stopping. And like you said, Alicia's the other person on the season that I can't stand. We all know an Alicia.
Yeah.
It's that person who seeks conflict where there was none to be found. They cross the line. They become nasty when they don't need to, and then they just hold these vendettas, these very personal one-on-one vendettas that are just why does it? I don't even know what I did wrong. And Christina says as much. She's like, I have no idea what I did wrong. And then Alicia's like, you said that 2 people were going to weave 20 palm fronds together. And Christina's like, no, I said that as a tribe, we would give them 20 woven palm fronds. At least I got us fire.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it probably takes a while to do that weaving, and, maybe Christina should have consulted, but, she could always do the 20 herself and then just get fire for her tribe.
Sure.
There are ways to do this.
It's so weird. I don't know a ton about Christina. I've heard she's very nice in real life. I do know that Jeff Probst has said the 2 worst strategic game players of all time were both on Survivor One World. Christina, he didn't name names. Christina is one of them. The other one's Leaf. Those are the 2. Jeff said there's specifically 2. You'll know by the end it's those 2. I don't think either of them had ever seen Survivor. I don't think either of them had any clue what they were doing. Leaf specifically, Leaf is a little person. That was a complete stunt casting. Oh, let's get a little person on the show. Cool. Wow, this guy, he's ripped. He's just absolutely jacked for a little person. We'll get him on the show. Has he ever seen the show? No. Does he have a strategic mind at all? No. But we'll get him on anyway.
Doesn't allow for real fair representation of diversity if you're bringing on someone who doesn't know how to play.
Yep. Not great. So there's idols. There's hidden immunity idols in Survivor. But the twist this season is there's 2 idols hidden at the One World Beach, but there's 1 for each tribe. Sabrina is going to find the Minono, the men's idol. So she has to hand it over to one of the men before the next tribal council. She's eventually going to give it to Colton, which is a great move. He's isolating himself. She's closest to him out of all the men. He can use it to take down one of the stud muffin guys. This is an awesome move from Sabrina.
It's the only move I would venture to say. based on everything that we saw and we know, this was the only move.
And like, this is the one thing that redeems Colton a little bit, is that it is the social effort that he's putting in, whether or not he's really intending on doing it this way, but how much he's interacting with the women's tribe that allows for something like this to happen. There's no reason for Sabrina to give this to anyone other than Colton. I know he was intending on it like paying off just alliance wise down the road, but I don't think people knew that the idols were going to work this way. So this was it was a little bit lucky on his part, but you know, you got to get lucky in Survivor too.
Yeah, better be lucky than good.
I was just about to say better to be lucky than good, and he was angling for an idol from the second they hit that beach. Guys tell you I need an idol more than anyone. I mean, look at me and look at them. They're obviously gunning for me.
You know who to give it to.
But he put himself in a position where he needed one, where he didn't need to put himself in that position.
Yeah, we do not recommend this gameplay.
Yeah, that
you might get lucky. Congratulations. That's not how you do it.
Immunity challenge. There is the first obstacle of this challenge is there is a giant drop onto a cargo net. Jeff Probst is very specific. Hey, cross your arms when you leap and land so you don't get hurt. Like 3 people followed those instructions. And it was very funny. Derek is like, oh, they're never doing this challenge again. Someone's going to get hurt.
And this was before, this is the second time in me watching Survivor where I have predicted an injury before it happened, where there was like no other subtext provided. The first time was in Cook Islands when Parvati was chopping a coconut.
Yep.
And I was like, that is not how you chop a coconut. And then she cut herself like off camera. And this one, I just looked at that challenge and I'm just like, oh, they're jumping into a rope cargo net up 15 feet. By the way, very reminiscent of the cliff diving from Australia. It's the only other time that I think they've jumped this far down into something. And I was like, oh, someone's getting hurt. They're never doing this challenge again. And then, you know, a couple people like hit their heads on like the logs that are supporting the cargo net and rolling down the cargo net. And Courtney is going to also break her wrist.
Yep. They get to the next obstacle and Courtney's like almost collapsed. Jeff's like, all right, we got to stop. And they have to take Courtney away for x-rays. So we don't know for sure if she's out yet. They're just told like, all right, here's the deal. You need 9 people to finish this challenge. So men, technically you can just take the win right now, or we can finish the challenge, compete as we were going. And they just have 8 people. Are you guys cool with that? Or you want to take the win? They're like, we'll take the win. 100% the right move.
Oh, this is
100% the right move.
This is the right move. You know, the competitor in me says like, Jeff, can we at least sit one person out and finish the challenge? But the right move is to just take the win, take the dub.
And to all the women who are saying, "Oh, we totally would have, you know, we totally would have competed if the roles were reversed."
BS. I don't believe no at all.
You would even give him a chicken.
Yep. I don't believe anyone that would not give this up for 1 second.
No,
you're a liar.
Don't get me wrong. I love the move for them to try and guilt them.
Sure.
So whether or not they would have actually done it, I don't think anyone or their mother believes that they would have. But I still love that they were like, oh, come on, we would do it for you. So everyone did the right thing here.
So the women are going to tribal council, and so they have to make a plan just in case Courtney is not medically evacuated. So the plan is to vote Courtney out no matter what.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Right move.
100%.
Well, they talk about how Courtney said she felt a snap when it happened. So, like, they don't know, but
they know.
You know.
Just in case, we'll get rid of her either way, because she'll either be out of the game or weaker than everybody else. Great move.
Well, and she hadn't really connected with a whole lot of people. It seemed like she was kind of like on the outskirts of the rest of them. So it just makes way too much sense. But that also made it for a very, I don't know, not very exciting ending to the episode.
Yeah, that's fair. Tribal Council, Alicia and Christina get into a huge fight. Alicia just calls out like Christina for no reason. Again, it's just baffling. And Christina just ends up telling her to shut up because she doesn't know what she's talking about. Not a great Survivor move. I kind of respect it.
At a certain point, you can stand up for yourself.
Yep.
And I think everybody knows what Alicia's about. And so I don't know that they'll hold anything against Christina. And in fact, maybe they want someone who's going to stand up for themselves for the tribe. Because that's what she was trying to do, was help the tribe. Yep. And Alicia's misrepresenting the facts and creating, again, all of this acrimony for absolutely no reason.
Drama where there was none.
Drama where there was none. She is the women's bomb to diffuse.
But Courtney was pulled from the game. There's going to be no votes. Courtney's gone. Sucks to suck.
Yep.
Big old bummer.
Sucks to suck.
Bring her back. She was medically evacuated.
You know, I'd be fine if they're like, you know, if we're going to do second chances again, people who got like just utterly screwed, you know, fine, put Courtney in.
Now, she did not follow directions.
Yep. She follow Jeff's directions.
But
it's her own fault.
But like 14 of the 18 didn't follow directions.
Yeah, and she just had bad luck.
So,
Josh, who did you have for best player of the episode?
No one.
Really? You didn't get point down?
No, I did. I don't know. I don't like it because past Josh said Colton just because of how he basically just said like screw it to his original tribe, which isn't a good strategy.
Nope.
Terrible strategy. But he did such a good job at bringing himself into the other like tribe. It's a really, really, really risky long-term play, but if he can get to the merge or if there's a tribe swap or anything like that, he's going to be sitting really good in that instance. And it was enough to get him an idol even because they wanted to give it to him because there was no other option. So that's why I ended up saying Colton. I don't know. Nowadays, it's not. I don't know. It's more that Colton just had so much other negative stuff to bring him down, but there just wasn't that much good gameplay here.
I mean, I went with Sabrina. She got into the majority alliance on the hike. She found the idol. She gave it to Colton, which is a great move for her. So I gave it to Sabrina.
I had Sabrina as well.
Sure, that works for me.
How about worst player, Josh?
I said Matt, and that was past Josh. I guess I can still stand by that just because he was one of those big alpha dogs that was it didn't really seem like he was rubbing people in the best way. And he did make kind of like the Macho Man alliance. I don't think he was the one to actually like spearhead that and like actually create it, but he was a part of it.
He was part of it, and I think the edit presents him as kind of a dodo. I don't think it's an accurate edit. But I think if you were to read just what the edit gives you, then yeah, I think that's like fair to criticize him.
It just seemed like a lot of people didn't like him, sure. And on both the men's and the women's side.
He's the leader of the men's tribe, and that, you know, there's more than a few alpha bros on this tribe that don't like that. My worst player was Alicia. She tried to steal fire out in the open, which, you know, whatever. But also just the way she got mad at Christina, especially at tribal council for no reason, was just stupid. So I have Alicia.
I have Alicia for every reason that Ryan already said. I had a dishonorable mention for Matt. I also had a dishonorable mention for Colton because everything good that happened to Colton, I almost administered to luck. But Matt, I didn't really get the dodo edit because, I mean, it's very clear he's intelligent. He's an attorney.
Yep.
And again, everyone knows how I feel about attorneys. They can't keep their mouth shut. They think that their voice is the best and smartest in the room, and they also don't know when to turn it off. And that is 100% Matt in a nutshell. He thinks that he is more intelligent than everybody, and, you know, he thinks that he has Survivor all figured out and he's got the best strategy. And if they follow him, the men's tribe will cruise on to victory. Huzzah! And I think that kind of rah-rah attitude on a tribe that has at least 5 misfits on it is not a good way to get in good with anyone. So he's just being generally pushy, being an attorney, unfortunately, a stereotypical attorney. And by the way, this was the episode where I realized I might have an unbalanced enjoyment for watching attorneys fail in Survivor. It's something I never thought.
A fetish for it, as you put it in the text.
I believe I said like a kink. I have a kink for watching attorneys get voted out of Survivor because it just brings me this undue level of enjoyment. Like, congratulations, you're winning at life, but like you can't win here.
Well, we're not here to kink shame you, Derek. I just wanted to put that out for the public to hear.
This is a family podcast. I don't know, whatever. But point being, dishonorable mention to Matt, and I can't wait for him to get voted out.
Well, on that note, Derek, your winner pick is Matt, right?
So I have my notes for my winner pick, and if we're just jumping right into that, I said Matt is an attorney, LOL. And this time around, I actually asked Ryan to tell me their professions before I picked a winner pick, because normally you'd have that in a bio.
That's fair.
And I was like, I'm doing my attorney check, because I'm not picking an attorney. Luckily, Matt is also the Andrew Savage pick, so I wouldn't have picked him anyway.
He's a very young Andrew Savage.
So we're doubling up here. We got the attorney. Andrew Savage is an attorney, isn't he?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so yeah, this is Andrew Savage light.
Yep.
I would never pick him in a million years. I try to pick someone from at least each tribe that I like, and the women's tribe is an absolute mess, so I'm not going to pick anyone from them. Obviously, I didn't learn my lesson in Amazon. The 2 people I did like from the women's tribe were Sabrina and Kim. Sabrina is easily my favorite, and I also love that she's a teacher. It means that she's likely very good at connecting with people. So Sabrina's my number 1 pick from the women's tribe. Jonas is the only guy that I like from the men's tribe. We didn't hear from him a whole lot, but also the men's tribe wasn't a complete disaster this episode, at least not yet. So I like Jonas, and I ended up picking Jonas because I wasn't going to go with a woman after episode 1.
Jonas, son of a bitch.
Jonas, son of a bitch.
That's the only reason he picked Jonas.
My name is Jonas.
Josh, who was your winner pick back in the day? A year ago.
So way back in the day, 15 months ago. So, I actually should put in a disclaimer here because I did say that I watched this May of 2021, which, as Ryan mentioned, was after Winners at War. However, Ryan gave me a nice little heads up with the remaining seasons that I had yet to watch, 24, 25, 26. Just basically FYI that there might be some winners like in here that get featured later on. So what I did is the remaining seasons that I had not seen yet, I went through and I watched the premiere of each season so that I could make an unbiased winner pick in case they ended up showing up in season 40.
Yep, you did that for 23 through 26.
Correct. So I had actually watched the premiere, made my winner pick, and then watched the rest of the season after Winners at War. So that way I wasn't going to be a Derek and be biased.
I can only do what I can do.
So, like Derek, I have a couple of finalists from each side. I did like Troyzan and Michael from Monono. However, I specifically made a note that there's no men that I can even possibly see being a Survivor winner here. I just don't think they have it in them. So in hopping over to the women's tribe, that's all I have to say about those two. Hopping over to the women's side, I like Chelsea, Kim, and Monica, all for a couple of different reasons, mostly just either the alliances they made or the confessionals that came on through the TV. Narrowed down though, I'm gonna go with Chelsea here. She did have the one big negative of the whole chicken debacle where she got the chickens and then she ended up keeping them for the tribe, but I do think that she did a good job not making herself the full attention of that situation. It could have been bad, but we didn't see that come through really. We didn't hear people talking about like, oh, Chelsea went back on her agreement. True. Chelsea did this. It was always the women did this. So I'm not gonna look into that too much as a reason not to pick her. And I think that she's set up decently going forward. So I'm gonna go with Chelsea.
Josh, are you suggesting that the men's tribe objectified the women's tribe as just a whole, and everything that one woman did, every woman did? And so it's not Chelsea's sin, it's the whole tribe's sin?
Yes. But to be fair, the women did the two to the men.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens a lot in Amazon and in this season.
Well, it's a smart thing to do, but you demonize your entire enemy.
Yeah.
And just make them look bad. It's a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't, hold it against either tribe for doing it.
Yeah.
My winner pick was originally Jonas. This season premiered. I was a senior in high school. I wanted the guys to win, do well, as you do with these types of seasons. I feel like 10 people, maybe I'm wrong, but people tend to vote for what tribe they would be on. So I wanted the men to win. Of the men, and this was my winner pick at the time, I did pick Jonas as well. Today, I would have picked Sabrina. That Sabrina had a great episode, a much better edit than Jonas in the first episode. So I would have picked Sabrina, but that's not what we judge. We judge my original winner pick, which is Jonas. So Derek and I are both on Team Jonas, son of a bitch.
I just remembered for Amazon, I actually picked Jean as my winner pick.
Yep.
So I did go to the totally hapless, inept.
Who did you? And then on Vanuatu, you picked Chris.
On Vanuatu, I picked Chris, but that was a very different situation where he had like the perfect confessional in episode 1.
Yeah, that was annoying. I was really mad you did that.
Bitch.
All right, let's move on to episode 2, Total Dysfunction. Alicia and Christina talk and clear the air. In confessional, Alicia still wants to take Christina out, though. Okay, fair. You could want to take anybody out for whatever reason. I do like that they cleared the air, at least publicly.
Yes. Good move.
Can't stand Alicia. This was a good move. Sabrina is elected team leader for the women's tribe, which, I'm like, that's not great. She seems fine with it. She's going to do a great job. She's going to pretty much nail this for the entire pre-merge.
Yep. I think if you have to get elected a leader, Sabrina does it the right way.
Yep.
And obviously she has the numbers on her side. She was in an alliance before she became leader of the tribe. So if you're going to assume the leadership position, make sure you have like support behind you. And we're in the era of Survivor where those alliances are coming early on in the game. You have to be in the right place.
So, don't want to be put in that position. Sometimes you are, and it's, there's nothing you can do about it. Sabrina actually seemed fine with it, though. And she did a great job, so that's all you can do at that point, is be a good leader.
Yeah, and have a good attitude and be an asset.
Sabrina is a shining beacon in this pre-merge. She's one of the only people I like.
Agreed.
Kat is a lot. She's very extra. She's the youngest person in the tribe. She's got a lot of energy. Some people find that annoying, especially the oldest person in the tribe, Nina. She's like, God bless her. She's a little much. Fair.
Yeah, and it comes through in the edit too.
Yeah.
A lot. We
get a reward challenge. It's a do-it-yourself reward challenge. I do know Jeff Probst was thinking about leaving Survivor at this point again. That he had his own talk show for a minute, the Jeff Probst show. And there was talk that he was going to leave Survivor and go do that instead. The Jeff Probst show ended up getting canceled, so that became a non-starter. So did he just not want to do a reward challenge, or did they just want to see what happens if on One World they got to run a challenge themselves? You decide.
I was going to say, it's one of the few times where we just... Because the last time we saw this, I don't remember... Samoa, and that was where they started on the opposite ends of the giant cornucopia, and then they started to, like, rip things apart, right? And then they're like, wait, we actually have to do a competition here?
Yeah, it's the bocce ball thing.
Yeah, 2 crates on either side, and then they start running, and someone's got 2 chickens by, like, the necks.
With Shambo, yep.
Yeah, I remember this, because it felt so out of place. It's just like, what is going on here?
Yeah, so I don't know what the answer is. Maybe it's both. Who knows? The men end up winning a tarp, so good for the guys. Colton is very lazy, pisses off all the men. He spends most of his time with the women to the point where he's even starting to annoy the women's tribe.
Yeah, the theme of the first half of this episode is Colton is annoying everyone.
Yeah, this is where it turns, basically. Yep. So my comments from last episode, this is where they stopped applying here.
They literally make him leave, and then he comes back later. And he's like, can I basically just stay with you guys? And I'm like, no, you can understand you could be a spy. Get out of here.
And I think it was Kim in particular who's like, you have to understand, you could just be telling us that you don't like any of the men just to make inroads with us and to get information out of us. We can't have you around all the time. We just have to assume that you are a double agent.
Yep, which is right.
100% right.
So Colton is going to tell Leaf, Troyzan, and Jonas about the hidden immunity idol. Basically, he's going to try and make a counter alliance to the Macho Stud Muffin alliance. I mean, they're going to bring Tarzan in as well. He's not there for this initial conversation, but they're going to bring him in and form the Misfit alliance. Because we have Colton, who's the flamboyant gay guy. We got Jonas, who is I believe Hawaiian sushi chef from Utah. We have Leaf, who's a little person. We have Tarzan, who's elderly.
And just a little odd.
And then we have Troyzan, who is a former young alpha stud muffin, who is just a little old. He's 50, I think.
But he's also just a little odd.
He's a little odd. So we have the Misfit Alliance versus the Stud Muffin Alliance. I don't remember what they actually call themselves, but I think it might be the Muscle Alliance.
Whatever, we can call them the Stud Muffin Alliance.
I'm going to call them the
totally
Stud Muffin
fine
Alliance.
with me.
I like that.
We could call them the Four Horsemen 2.0. It's about as successful.
I was going to say, this is all fine and dandy, but we just talked about last episode that Troyzan's in the Stud Muffin, apparently, alliance. So,
so Troyzan's the wild card.
Troyzan is the swing vote, is what he is. And, it's one of the few times that the edit really doesn't play that up almost at all.
Yeah, we're not going to see any of that until the next episode.
Yes.
Their plan is to knock out Matt and then Michael, because I think they all like Jay. And I don't think anyone's gotten annoyed with Bill yet. Just Matt is the leader, and Michael's just, basically not in the loop is how they describe Michael. He's never in the loop about anything. So with the deal with Troyzan is, I think he's an alpha, and Matt is an alpha. Matt was the leader of that alliance. Troyzan wanted to be the leader of his own alliance. I think that's why Troyzan doesn't go with the Stud Muffin alliance. He's like, well, I'm an alpha too, and I need to be in charge kind of thing. That real annoying alpha energy.
It very well could be something like that.
We're going to get the classic balance beam immunity challenge, which every man's tribe ever has lost, and they have no chance. Oh, wait, the guys won. What?
What year is it? It's a new year.
Equality.
Kat, and to a lesser extent, Christina, just blow this challenge horrifically bad. Embarrassing performance. They keep falling off. Kat keeps jumping off for some reason. And so the men just dominate this challenge. It's shocking. It is shocking how well they do. Wow. I remember watching this episode and I was just so hyped. I'm like, yeah, men can do a thing. They can balance. Woo!
Well, and I remember being so annoyed by Kat this entire challenge. Like, I didn't remember it until you were just talking about it now. But yeah, I remember jumping off. Just be like, what? Why?
Well, and then there was even a moment where Jeff is like, Kat jumps in the water. Not sure why, though. Doesn't make any sense.
Kat jumped off the balance beam again. For some reason, she did not have to. Nina and Monica, they want to take out Kat because she blew the challenge. Yeah, they try to get everyone else on board. Unfortunately, Kat's in the majority alliance.
Yeah.
She's safe.
And by the way, there is a quote, poor Kat, where I don't remember if it was Nina or Monica's like, Kat makes me sorry for all women.
That was Monica.
Monica.
Yeah. So at Tribal Council, Nina's going to put Kat on blast. She tries to turn it on Christina because apparently she doesn't want to play the game. That wasn't shown to us at all, but it oh, yeah, Christina doesn't know how to play the game. She's the worst strategic player of all time, along with Leaf. There's just some evidence for that. It's a really weird, turnaround, though, because it's not shown in the show at all, except for this one line.
And I think, more than anything, it actually showed me that Kat really didn't know what was going on all that well. She knew she was in an alliance, supposedly.
Yep.
But the fact that she wasn't just, blowing back on Nina, hey, you can't talk to me like that. She's like, no, I'm going to take your lightning and I'm going to direct it at Christina for no reason. And I'm like, Christina's like, what did I do? Leave me alone.
I mean, Christina also sucked at the challenge. Not as bad as Kat, but she was also pretty bad.
I mean, Christina wasn't... She was almost useless, but Kat was worse than useless. Yep. And so, I actually don't think it was close at all. Because Kat... The guys were halfway done before Kat even gave up trying to be the first person. There's just a lot there. Anyway.
But what's really bad is Sabrina and Chelsea both admit they regret their current alliance. They're like, yeah, things probably would have been different if we'd waited and not, the alliance would have been shaken out differently.
Not done it immediately on the hike.
Yikes.
Not a good answer.
Do not admit to this. And you can always change the alliance, to be honest. But
yeah, that's not an answer that you give Jeff.
No, Kat should be looking to change things up now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if I'm Kat after this Tribal Council, if you survive, you got to find a new alliance. You got to change things up because they are having second thoughts. That's not great. It's going to be 6 votes for Nina, because she's the oldest person in the tribe, is why she gets targeted. 1 vote for Christina, 1 vote for Kat. Monica voted for Christina for some reason. I don't know why. Throwaway, maybe. Anyway, the alliance
to defend from an idol.
Yeah. So the alliance sticks together. The core alliance of 5: Alicia, Sabrina, Kim, Chelsea, and Kat. They stick together. Okay, cool. That's good. Why not Christina instead of Nina? Because Nina, the only reason they target her is because she's the oldest person in the tribe. She had no problem in any challenge so far. Whereas Christina is actively bad in the challenge, and Alicia already doesn't like her. That's just someone you can target to make a member of your alliance happy. I don't get why they didn't take out Christina instead of Nina.
Is this the one where a little bit earlier in the episode they were saying that Nina is the person who's more likely to make social inroads and fracture the alliance, even though they didn't necessarily want to be in that alliance, that is their alliance and they need to go for it, and so they're like, okay, we need to get rid of the person who's more likely to fracture us?
Maybe.
And Christina isn't in the game of fracturing anybody, so she's not dangerous. So maybe just get rid of someone who's more dangerous, generally speaking, in the game, who's not in your alliance. And if that is the criteria, Nina fits it.
Sure.
So
I just have to assume it's just kind of like an age bias, where it's just just take out the older person, even if there hasn't been any issues. You just assume that there has been,
which kind of sucks.
Just assume that they're slowing you down, even if they aren't.
I feel bad for Nina.
And it did not feel like that was the case at all.
Yeah,
I didn't think that Nina was slowing anybody down. I think she was one of the hardest workers at camp, and I think that she was more than pulling her weight in challenges thus far.
Yep. I feel bad for Nina.
I do too. But
that sucks.
If they voted her out for being a threat, then that's the way it shakes out. If they voted her out because she's the older woman, that stinks.
That sucks. For best player, I gave it to Alicia. She cleared the air with Christina and stuck with her majority alliance.
I actually gave the best of the episode to Kim for keeping the young girl alliance together, and she was the one to tell off Colton to be like, hey, listen, you can't be here all the time. We need to assume that you're a double agent, and then you're going to feed information away from our alliance into yours. And she was not afraid to be the bad guy to Colton when he needed a bad guy. So I really like the fact that the alliance stayed together despite everything, and she stayed out of the drama. All the drama was around her.
Interesting. Past Josh said Troyzan with a question mark. I can tell that I was very confused at what I was going to do for this episode. Maybe just because, he hopped into this new alliance for some reason, but that's what old Josh said. I don't know, but if I have to choose between you guys, I don't know. I didn't really like Derek's reasoning, so I think I'm going to go with Ryan here.
Who was
splitting hairs?
Alicia. I don't like giving it to her, but I do think it's correct.
Why?
Because she cleared the air with Christina and stuck with the majority alliance, which is what you liked.
And Derek, your main reasoning was actually not really a great
agree,
positive. Her telling Colton off, while that is, it might be kind of good. It's the truth. It's yeah, you shouldn't be doing this because you might be a double agent, whatever. that might not be the best move at the time.
Make an enemy of
her.
Colton.
It might make an enemy of Colton, but it does endear you to the women who were all getting pretty annoyed with Colton.
Sure, let one of them speak up.
Because they don't want to. You can go ahead and take the credit. It's a risky move, but I do think that it's a good move. So
I disagree.
I respect it. It's fine.
Worst player, I have Colton. He alienated and annoyed literally everyone on the island. Yes, he did form an alliance around the idol, but should not have been in the position he needed to do that. Plus, he told people about the idol, which we generally condemn. Like I said, it's not as bad in a season 24. You don't do this anymore for sure.
I have a dishonorable mention to Colton, but I mean, he got into a majority alliance. It's Kat, because her alliance was literally at tribal council saying like, yeah, we probably shouldn't have made an alliance with Kat, and she completely botches the challenge. And Nina says like, she's not smart, she's not strategic, she claims to be athletic, we haven't seen it, and so she gets raked over the coals and has absolutely no defense, and then tries to blow it off onto Christina for no reason. She didn't even know how to direct her, I guess, cross-examination of the whole thing. So it's Kat, and I actually don't think that it's particularly close.
Yeah, Past Josh said Kat, and I'd stick with that. Okay, so
fair enough.
Team Derek here.
That's totally fine.
Fair enough. You can give worst to Colton whenever you want, by the way.
Okay.
Yes, we're keeping the dishonorable mention here, though.
Yes, absolutely.
And then since I had not mentioned it, for anyone who's new around here, I only watched the premiere, merge, and finale episodes. So anything in between, yes, I have notes from when I originally watched it, but I'll mostly be a tiebreaker whenever there is a disagreement between these other two fools that I'm co-hosting with.
Correct. Episode 3, One World is out the window. We get a giant storm, so the guys do allow the girls to come into the shelter with them because the girl shelter kind of sucks and their fire got blown out. So there's like, yeah, just come on in. Nice human moment for everybody. Okay, fair enough. It was a really bad storm. The women are going to win the reward challenge. They get fishing gear and a boat. Cool. The women cannot get their fire restarted, so Monica and Kat, they go ask the guys for an ember. The guys are like, okay, yeah, you can have one. In return, we would like to use the boat sometime. Just let us use the boat once to go fishing. Alicia and Chelsea come over a little bit later to warm up. And they're like, hey, so can we use that boat? And they're like, probably not. And like, okay, so we gave you an ember earlier, and you're coming here to use our fire, and you're not going to give us anything in return? So the guys are just kind of done with this, and I don't blame them at all. There's no beneficial anything for them at this point. Kick them to the curb until you get something.
And I think this is the part where I did get annoyed with the whole thing, because you have this good human moment and then you still have every request from the guys shrugged off into, oh, well, I need to go discuss this with the other women first. I need to go discuss this with the other girls. Well, if you're going to come over here and reap a benefit, maybe you should be willing to take on some of the risk. It's risk reward. And I couldn't stand them literally standing under their tarp in their shelter around their fire saying, no, we're not going to give you anything. I was like, maybe you should have played better and won the tarp. It was a bad storm, but they didn't need to let anyone come in and get warm. They didn't need to let anyone come in and dry off. They didn't need to do any of that, and it is in their best interest to not do that as long as it's a tribe decision not to do that. Now, if 7 guys want to do it and 1 guy doesn't, you don't want to be the one guy. But like unanimously for the game, I think it's probably best for them not to do this.
Yeah, it's time to be done. Colton has a very memorable confessional where he's like, I'm a Republican. I do not believe in handouts, because even he's fed up. It's like, okay, Colton, this tracks. I believe this. This is a confessional that strikes me as true.
Very honest.
Oh, boy.
So, yeah, the guys are all just done, and that's completely fair. The women, Chelsea, Kim, and Monica, they're going to go fishing, and they all 3 of them catch at least 1 fish. So at this point, you've proven you catch fish. Maybe don't let the guys use it, but don't go asking them for other stuff either at this point.
Yeah, and this is where I like specifically remember as your memorability consultant, especially when it was raining and they're underneath their shelter. They're all just kind of like huddled around, just like, I don't know. I don't think that we want to really give you anything. I was so sick of this already.
Yep. Immunity challenge is going to be a blindfold collar challenge. It's Bill versus Sabrina. Bill is amazing at being the caller, but he completely blows the puzzle, and Sabrina catches up on the puzzle, so the women win immunity.
Asterisk, the women copied the first 5 pieces that Bill got without them, which is totally legal.
Yep.
But it's not like it was as big of a blow as the edit made it seem like it was, because it was not an easy puzzle.
No, it's a big 3D tree puzzle.
Yeah, with the leaves. And we've seen it many times
but this
before.
is, I think, the first time we've had this puzzle in Survivor. I think this is the first one. And we've used it a bunch of times. It's just very, very unique. Colton finds Bill very annoying because Bill is very much like a dude bro, like surfer dude, you know. He's probably the class clown in school trying to make everybody laugh, but like almost to an obnoxious degree a little bit.
I think that Bill seeks people's approval.
Yeah.
I think
he's a stand-up comedian.
He's a stand-up comedian. I think he wants to be rich in social capital.
Yep.
He is a people pleaser, and he wants everybody to like him. I mean, you can tell that.
Yep.
Just watch him for 5 seconds on the season. You're like, yeah, he just wants to make people happy. That's all he wants.
All right, Colton, you can find him annoying and not like him all you want. That is totally fine. What is going to happen next is not totally fine. Colton basically, in a confessional, he's like, Bill is ghetto trash, and he should just kill himself.
Yep.
Jeez.
Yep.
And this is why I absolutely find Colton's behavior despicable and disgusting.
Colton's going to say post-Survivor, he's like, that was just me trying to be funny. Dark humor. It's like, okay, but that was a really, really horrible thing to say, and, maybe you shouldn't.
I mean, we've only had, I think, one other person call someone ghetto trash in Survivor history, and I think it was Ben.
Yep. That was Ben Browning.
Not great company to be in, and he's not there yet. He's going to end up in my bottom 5 contestants of all time over the next couple episodes.
Yeah, it's a bad look.
So it starts here. And obviously, especially nowadays, like, this is inexcusable. But even then, like,
it was bad. So the Misfit Alliance, their target is Matt, but Colton wants Bill out for strictly personal reasons.
Yeah, that may or may not be race related.
May or may not be race related. Definitely class related.
Definitely class related.
We're going to get into that more in the next episode.
Yes.
So the Misfit Alliance is all talking, and Jay sees him talking. He's going to wander on over, and he's like, "Hey, what are you guys talking about? Strategy?" And Jay's like, "Oh, I'm on the outs. I'm going to join you guys." Immediately jump ship. A great move for Jay.
Good for him.
And great for Jay. I do know he and Colton are actually going to become pretty close on the island, so I think this is where that starts. We're not going to see any of that in the edit, but I know Jay and Colton were pretty tight on the show. They're both Southern guys, so I think that might have something to do with it. Matt realizes he might be in trouble, so he tries to talk to Troy's and be like, "Hey, man, what's going on? We're roosters, man. We got to work together."
And by the way, we're skipping the part where Matt also walks up to this group. So there's the group of 5. Jay walks up and joins the group. And then Matt joins up and he's like, "Am I interrupting something?" And Tarzan's like, Yeah. Can you leave?
Uh-oh.
So Matt tries to get Troyzan back, but Troyzan, they're 2 roosters. Troyzan wants to be the only rooster walking around. So he wants Matt out more after this conversation.
And by the way, another thing that we kind of skipped, right after the guys lost this immunity challenge, Matt's like, "I've been accruing power in this tribe for the last 8 days. I'm finally excited to wield some of that power and strip some of the fat from this tribe." And I'm like, oh, he's going home.
Goodbye.
That's just such an attorney thing to say.
So Colton tells everyone at Tribal Council, "I'm going to play my idol. I have the idol. I'm going to play it just to be safe." This is a great move. It keeps everyone scared and in line, so nobody's going to turn against him. And it's just like, oh, no, he's going to play it. He's not an option. And then he's not going to play the idol. It is a great move for Colton on paper.
It's a great strategic move.
It's a great strategic move. Colton still sucks. But to keep everyone in line and scared, that's great. Maybe the guy should have targeted Colton. This might be like season 42 level Survivor. Target Colton. You know he's going after Matt. Either way, you knock out the idol and either get rid of Matt or Colton. Doesn't matter either way. So maybe that was an option. But nobody on this season is that good of a player.
And I also think that Troyzan wanted to be on Colton's side or like with the Misfit Alliance because, he can be the rooster in that alliance. So it really didn't benefit anyone it didn't benefit the majority alliance to try and flush the idol today.
Possibly too soon for that kind of move thing.
Yeah, maybe get rid of Matt and then do it next time. I would sign off on that.
Well, and if you're worried as well about like getting rid of Colton because he is a member of your alliance, so if you knock him out, you just got rid of one of your own. If you want to adopt Jay into this new alliance, you probably have enough people still. You can shed a member and be fine. You already have the overwhelming majority, so you don't really have to worry about that angle of it.
Probably too soon, but I thought it was worthy of discussion because I want Colton off the island.
Always worthy of discussion.
It's going to be 7 votes for Matt, 1 vote for Bill, 1 vote for Colton. Michael voted for Bill because he was completely left out, and I don't really know why he voted for Bill, but okay. If they want to stick together, I would say Matt is the most dangerous player, so if that's their goal, this is a good move. So, sure.
I agree with Matt being a good move. Also, an attorney just got voted out of Survivor, and that's hilarious to me.
Very happy.
I would have rather seen Colton go from an entertainment and human aspect, but from a Survivor aspect, like, again, this is where I realized that I just find it funny when attorneys get voted out or when attorneys don't win.
Poor Matt. Best guy in the season.
Yeah, I said that this was the right move as well.
Least embarrassing man on the season.
That is true,
Yep.
and we're about to get to that.
Derek, who'd you have for best player of the episode?
So I actually had Tarzan because I liked the idea. Normally, I don't like open forum, okay? But when Matt walked up to the circle and Tarzan was like, no, leave, he's solidifying his place in the Misfit Alliance. He is putting his cards on the table saying, like, I am with you. You don't have to worry about me. And for someone in Tarzan's position, he's the older male. We know that he has some memory problems.
He's got a bad leg.
And we also know that he was kind of the last one brought into this alliance. And so he's just saying, like, he's committing. And so I think that even if it wasn't great gameplay Survivor, if you want to win, I do think that it boosted his stock the most in this episode for him to do that. And I think Matt going home benefits Tarzan as much as it benefits anybody else in the Misfits Alliance. So I actually had Tarzan, and I'm not going to have a whole lot of good things to say about him this pre-merge. So I'm happy to give it to him here.
Well, I'm not going to have a whole lot of good things to say about Colton, but I'm going to give him best player of the episode. He seized control of his tribe very effectively. He's in a great spot. There were some great strategic moves. He's got some nasty confessionals, but those were confessionals. His play on the island in this episode was very good, and he took out a very dangerous player in Matt. I hate it, but that's what it is.
Yeah, and honestly, I probably would have given it to Colton. So by the letter of the law, it probably should be. But if you call someone ghetto trash in an episode, I'm not going to give you best player of the episode.
So Past Josh ended up giving this to Jay here. And he was nice and adaptable. He saw how things were laying out, and he had no problem being able to fit in. And it seemed like he was able to assimilate into this other alliance pretty naturally. There wasn't like a lot of pushback or anything like there was when Matt tried to do the exact same thing. So that's why I gave it to Jay.
That makes sense.
I like the J pick.
If I'm being a tiebreaker, I guess I would go with Colton.
You know, I will say, I would think if we ranked all the men on this season, I think Jay's probably got the best social game.
I would probably agree with that based on nothing else. He just seems like he's only got nice things to say generally.
Yeah. How about worst player?
So for worst, I had Alicia because I hated her interaction with the men's tribe with everything that happened around the fire and being non-committal and not sharing resources, and basically that whole situation just annoyed me enough to where, like, okay, eventually you guys are going to commingle, and Alicia, you're not building any bridges. You're pissing people off. I can see where you could give this to someone like Mike for being outside of the vote, but I have Alicia.
I had Bill. He kind of had a poor social game in this episode. You know, that doesn't warrant him being called ghetto trash or anything like that. And what Colton system is, not acceptable at all. But Bill did annoy people in this episode. And then he blew the immunity challenge.
Did he annoy people or did he annoy Colton?
I think he annoyed Colton the most, but I think some other people were annoyed with him too. He's a bit much. But yeah, it's still not forgivable what anybody said about him. But, it's still not great. And then he did blow the immunity challenge.
Yeah, just because Colton was the only one that you heard from about this doesn't mean that other people weren't annoyed by it. Past Josh gave it to Bill, so I'm going to go with, obviously, Ryan here on the tiebreaker.
Cool. Episode 4, Bum Puzzled, which up until season 39 came around, this was my least favorite episode of Survivor.
For a good reason.
Yeah,
And by the way, of all the things that I've been spoiled on, I had no idea that this episode was coming.
Yeah,
this was such a weirdly like just an oddly well kept secret for some weird reason, because I had no idea that it happened either.
People don't like to talk about it because it's ugly, it sucks, it's embarrassing. If you're a man, I don't know how you can get through this episode without being just completely embarrassed by your gender.
I was done rooting for the men's tribe at the end of this episode.
Me too. I after this episode, I want none of the men to win. I'm abandoning my gender on this one. So Jonas asked the girls, like, hey, the fishing net you guys won, if you let us use it, I'm from Hawaii, I know how to fish, I will catch fish and we will give you half. You don't have to do anything, I will just use the net and we'll catch half. And the girls decline this. I think that's fine because they have proven they catch fish themselves, and this way they do deprive men of the fish. So I'm fine with them declining this offer.
This still irritates me because the men gave the women shelter and fire many times and have received absolutely nothing in return for that. So I'm just generally salty about the women's attitude about this whole transactional thing, and I don't think we're going to get another moment like this in the pre-merge. Like, we're kind of done with this whole transactional discussion because I don't really think that's going to bear any more fruit.
Yeah, that's the last one.
But like, since it ends here, it just irritated me. So anyone going on One World, if the vibes of the tribe early on are that you're stay separate and don't give them anything at all. Don't do human moments, don't do anything. But if the vibe of the tribe is that you're helping each other and you're going to come together, but just be separate on challenges, then go with the flow on that one and be a good person, but be very careful not to accidentally ostracize your tribe in favor of the other one like Colton did. There are lessons to be learned here. But don't be the men's tribe getting taken advantage of by the women's tribe, like what happened in this season.
And this just annoyed me because I just see it as like, yeah, you might be able to catch fish on your own, but you could do nothing.
True.
You could do nothing.
But this way the men get
fish.
nothing.
I know, but I'm lazy. And if I see an opportunity to just sit and have a passive income in the form of fish, I'll take it.
You know what this is? This is the company match on a 401k. Like, all you got to do is provide the net and the fish magically appear.
Free fish.
The women are going to win the reward challenge. They win a tarp, so they don't have to go to the men's shelter anymore. Leaf is hanging out with Bill, and I guess they've become friends on the island. Leaf lets slip to Bill that Colton is targeting Bill next. Michael sees them talking, and Michael's in a bad spot. He's like, all right, time to throw somebody else under the bus. Chaos is a ladder. He goes to Colton and tells him, hey, Leaf and Bill are talking on the beach. That's not good. You should confront him. Colton summons Leaf to him, so Colton doesn't have to get out of his chair or whatever. And basically confronts him like, hey, did you tell Bill that he's next and we're targeting him? Leaf tries to lie, but Leaf has no way to do it. He can't do it.
Well, and Colton goes, he honestly turns into a police officer. He's like, Leaf, if you don't tell me the truth, I can't help you.
Yep.
And then Leaf's like, yeah, I did tell him this. And then Colton's like, you just sealed your fate, buddy.
Yep.
Thanks for the confession. You're going away.
Yeah,
police are not there to help
Police
you,
Officer Colton here. Yeah, that's actually very, very apt a description of what just happened.
Police are not your friends, everybody.
Police are not your friends. So Colton says some really nasty things about Leaf in a confessional. And then Bill, both of them, just like some really derogatory terms towards little people, keeps insulting Bill. It's just nasty look.
And we're just getting worse and worse. Colton is my least favorite player to ever actually hold power in the game of Survivor. And that's including someone like Russell, who was like a dick within the context of the game.
Yep.
And like, but we never saw him get super personal like this beyond the whole like dumbass girl alliance.
Yep.
Not a good look. But
this is worse.
But we only got that once. This is magnitudes worse. I don't even like comparing them because this goes so far beyond the game.
Yeah.
Well, it's like walking a fine line between someone like, and these two people aren't too very similar, but I'm going to group them together, but like a Russell or like a Corinne who does a really good job at kind of insulting people, but doing it in a way that's almost endearing, that makes you like them. This is like not just walking the line, but walking the tightrope off a cliff, going out like towards Colton's direction here.
It's bad.
And we all admitted that even some of the things that Corinne said on her season were like just a bit too far, but like she was never really attacking people for things that were completely out of their control. It was more like, I really hate that personality. You're an awful person. You're a dumb person.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And maybe I have rose-colored glasses on for Corinne. I would have to go back and watch Gabon again, which I don't plan on doing anytime soon. Speaking of seasons that are pretty low on my rankings, but Colton is awful, and I'm sick of him, and I want him off my TV, like as of now.
A couple episodes ago.
Actually, a couple episodes ago, but like, please make it stop.
Before the immunity challenge, Kat, they believe the immunity challenge is going to have puzzles. Kat's like, hey, I'm bad at challenges. It says we're going to get paired up. I should be someone who is good at puzzles because I'm bad at puzzles. And Alicia was like planning on being Kat's partner. And Kat basically was like, oh, are you good at puzzles? Because I can't be with someone who's not good with puzzles. And it wasn't saying that Alicia is bad at puzzles. It was just like asking a question. Are you good at puzzles? Like, is that something you have a strength with? And Alicia, she took that personally. And just like gets mad at Kat for no reason. And, good on Sabrina. She tries to play peacemaker. Normally I would say don't do that, but these are both people in your alliance.
There is a time to harmonize.
Yeah.
Honestly, the biggest mistake was ever bringing Alicia in onto this alliance.
But 5 minutes in, who knows that?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the risk you run when you make alliances on a hike to camp. But yeah, this is just typical Alicia, looking for a problem where there isn't one, taking things personally that aren't meant to be. Literally, Kat is like, this is self-degradation. She's like, I am not smart enough to do a puzzle. I am bad for the team on this. Can we put someone who can offset that with me? And Alicia's like, you saying that I'm not good enough to offset you? You saying I'm not smart enough to offset your stupid? It's like, Alicia, why are you mad?
Well, I think it's just Alicia is insecure because we're going to go to the immunity challenge, and Alicia and Chelsea are going to be paired together, and they are embarrassingly bad at the puzzle.
Yes, they are, and it's hilarious.
The men clean their clocks on this challenge. It is not even remotely close. I think only half of the women's tribe actually gets out on the course.
Yep. And it was funny because they were trying to copy the men's puzzles again, which is the second time this season that this has happened. And it's mildly irritating to me.
They can't even get it right when they try and copy the men's puzzle.
And that's what made it funny.
Yep.
So my male homerism came in a little bit as I'm watching the women try to copy these challenges 2 times in a row to win immunity. And I'm like, stop it.
Yeah.
This is really irritating.
I wasn't out on the men's tribe yet.
I was not completely out. I'm about to be, though.
That'll come later.
Because the men are going to win this. They're going to win immunity. So cool. The women are going to tribal council tonight.
Christina and Sabrina's actually kind of sick of Alicia. They're like, they kind of want to take Alicia out. Kim's like, I don't want to turn on the alliance yet. We should just get rid of Christina. None of this is going to matter. Bill tries to talk to Colton, and Colton just shuts him down, tells him to go away, just insults him to his face. It gets really, really heated and nasty. There's a little bit more context to this one. Bill apparently found Colton's hidden immunity idol in his bag and just tossed it into the ocean. Just like, I'm going to get rid of this. That's against the rules, because once you find an idol, it becomes personal property, and you're not allowed to destroy or harm personal property like that. If you know, people have burned people's hats and socks before, but whatever. You're not allowed to take that kind of thing.
It's a game item. It has power. It does feel different from a fedora.
Sure. So production, this was alerted to production. They gave Colton, I don't know if they found the old one floating in the ocean somewhere, or if they just gave him a new one. They just replaced Colton's idol. But that's one of the reasons Colton doesn't like Bill. Again, does not excuse anything he says, but there was just one thing they left out. So that's where some of the vitriol comes from, I'm sure. Yeah, Colton's just so bad here. Anyway, Colton wants to vote Bill out. And so he suggests, like, hey, why don't we give up immunity so we can go vote out Bill? What? No. That'll never happen.
Well, you would need all 8 people to agree on this, including Bill.
Why would anyone go for this? Like, if you get one of you is going, why would all 8 of you agree to this? Because it has to be unanimous. Bill is going to agree to go because he's told that Leaf is going to go for revealing information, information that was only allowed to be part of the alliance. He leaked that information out, so therefore Leaf has to go.
He has to pay the price. Bill should be questioning why Leaf is okay with this.
Yep. Leaf is told it's him that's going, and he needs to go. Basically, he needs to prove his loyalty to the tribe by agreeing to be voted out. Leaf is going to agree to this.
I see, and this is on the edit. I do have my suspicions that they played it up that, oh, Leaf, we need to make everyone think you're going home so that we can get Bill to agree to go to tribal. And maybe they honestly just left Tarzan out, and they're like, Tarzan, I want you to tell everybody that Leaf is going home, because he is, and they just never told him anything else. He was on a need-to-know basis.
Regardless, both Bill and Leaf, who are both on the outs, and even someone like Michael, who was on the outs last episode, all agree to do this. The only person who really puts up any fight at all is Jay, and he's like, this is a terrible move. Oh, you've all agreed to do this? Fine.
And it's the one slightly redeeming quality for any of the men at all was Jay's little bit of, this is a really bad plan. Because we're even going to get Troyzan out in the water, I think, talking to Jay or Mike, like, this is the only way. We have to do this. I'm like, why are you gung-ho about this?
Oh, no. You're acting like no one's ever leaked information on Survivor before. You're acting like there's never been a personal conflict on Survivor before. This is insanity.
And the number one rule for anybody on the bottom in Survivor is just pray for time. There could be a tribe swap coming up soon that would save you if you're in a bad spot.
Literally in the next episode.
So I thought, oh, wow, they're just playing this up for drama. There's no way that the men actually do this. There's no way.
They're going to do it. We're going to have a big, huge moment. Tribal Council, we cut to Tribal Council. We don't see the tribe walking in at first. It's just Jeff.
And we just see the torches off in the distance, just the darkness. So you can't, just silhouettes. You can't see if it's men or if it's women or whomever.
And finally, it's revealed the men have come to Tribal Council. They gave up immunity. They're here. Jeff's face is just bum puzzled.
And I 100% believe that they did not tell Jeff that the men were going to be there. Because my guy, I've never seen Jeff looked shocked before.
Yep.
And
This is probably the most surprised Jeff has ever been.
I think he was genuinely speechless. Like, what?
Which is so surprising that they wouldn't tell him ahead of time. I love that they didn't. And if that's the case, because it did. Of course, I remember this, but it did seem like he was shocked when they came in. So I'm gonna go with the assumption that they did not tell him, and I'm shocked because I'm assuming that he prepares a lot of his questions ahead of time. Maybe not, but it seems like something that he wouldn't really love, not being clued in on the entire game.
You know what I think? As like Jeff appreciates good TV. I think he's just like, I think he was fine with it. I'll toss out all my note cards and improv this just because this is so wild.
And I'm not going to lie, Jeff does pretty darn well with this tribal. Assuming that he went in blind, it was great. If he went in prepared, he still did well, given what's going to happen.
Now, you know who doesn't love this? Me.
Yeah, any normal TV viewer.
This is embarrassing. Honestly, I remember watching this live, and as a man, I was embarrassed by these 8 people are on my TV screen representing men, and they are doing a piss poor job. They gave up immunity, one of the worst moves in all of Survivor, and it's going to get worse. This Tribal Council is just gross. But before that, it's just embarrassing, and I'm like, I don't want any of these guys to win. They don't deserve to win. Go women. I hate this. I hate this episode. This taints the entire season for me. This, to spoil my rankings of the season, for a long time, up until like season 38 and 39 came along, this was my least favorite season, and most likely will be there when we finish our rewatch.
And you know what? Let's throw away the men and women aspect for right now, because like I can understand why young impressionable Ryan, any young male would be like, aha, all in on the male, and then just be all out on the male. Like, this would be stupid for any tribe to do, unless there was a very specific time for a challenge throw where you need to vote somebody else out. You should never give up immunity to do that. Like, I can actually think of a situation where your starting tribe, a swapped tribe. I've got thoughts coming up next episode. A swapped tribe, I understand a challenge throw. The original tribe, I don't get it. I don't care if it's men, women. I don't care. This was stupid, and I think I was immediately messaging you guys. I think the first thing I said was top 3 worst moves in Survivor history, and then I think I simmered down. I'm like, okay. Like bottom 10 for sure. I bet I could squeak it into 5.
Well, for someone like Bill and Leaf, maybe like top 1. No, this they should all be embarrassed.
They should be.
They should be embarrassed to be part of this,
including the people who wanted it to happen. Maybe them more than most of all. Them most of all, because you should have the awareness to not be this stupid.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious that this is an early front runner for most memorable moment of the pre-merge, if not the season as a whole. So going into this, I wasn't really gung ho like rah go men's tribe or anything like that, and I already can tell from just like up until this point in the season that this wasn't a group of people that I found a whole lot of, I guess, identity with necessarily, who I was rooting for. So to say it was like, I felt like they brought shame upon men. Well, yes, they did bring shame upon men, but to have that like so majorly affect my viewing of it, I actually found this comical because of how stupid it was. It didn't anger me. It made me laugh. And I was actually pretty entertained by this. Terrible gameplay. But at least up until this point here, seeing them walk in was hilarious. When the big reveal of the men walking in was a top, actually, moment of this season for me.
I think the reason this gets separated from meme status for me is that the person who wanted it to happen was Colton. And I hate Colton's guts, and I don't like watching a bunch of people let Colton get his way.
Yeah.
So, like, on top of it being just an awful move, it's Colton making the move. It's Colton who's driving the move, and I just want him gone, and what's going to happen is going to make him more powerful in the game.
Yep. So this is going to turn into, I've talked about it before, I think there are 8 dark moments on Survivor that go too far. This is one of them. This tribal council. Colton is going to go after Bill for being a struggling stand-up comedian because Bill, is financially unstable. He has to couch surf sometimes. Basically being poor. Colton is like, get a real job. You're using people. You're relying on handouts. Blah, 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 blah.
Ha, 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 ha. Stones, glass houses, Colton, coming from the person who hasn't had to struggle financially, who went to private school, who didn't currently, I believe, have a job at that time.
Yeah, he's a student at the time. It's like you haven't worked a day in your life. That's what Bill says, Colton. Like, you haven't worked a day in your life. Why are you going after me for pursuing something I love, comedy? Like, what the hell, man?
And by the way, I do not know either of these people personally. I just want to throw that out there. Bill handles this entire thing beautifully. Yep. He's like, I embrace Colton for his differences, and he is shunning me, ostracizing me for mine. And I think that is what makes this so gross, is that Colton, who's doing that, has all of the power in the situation, and it's just going to get worse. Everything Bill says is amazing, and you can tell he's very self-aware. He's very understanding. He's given these issues a lot of thought, and you can tell that Colton is just spoiled white rich kid.
And I think what makes this worse for me is Colton's gay. Like, there were people in his life. He's from Alabama. There's going to be people he's encountered that don't accept him for that. And they mentioned that a little bit. He's like, I don't associate with those people. Okay, great. You don't associate with those people. That's fine. But the fact that you are in a minority group, and the fact that you're treating somebody this way is just disgusting. Like, you might expect it a little bit more from someone who is not in any minority group. But Colton is. And that's why I think this is so nasty. It's just like, he should know better.
You'd think there would be some empathy, but there's just a lot of people out there who don't understand the concepts. And I'm not saying that Colton would be someone who's, on the Venn diagram for intersectionality, where you're a part of multiple groups that have suffered generational trauma or suffered oppression on a societal level, right? You could argue that it's just the one. He's gay.
Yep.
Right? So that puts him in a minority grouping where he has been historically oppressed, or at least people like him.
Yep.
But he has absolutely no empathy that bleeds over into a bad household. We find out that Bill had to kind of be out on his own when he was young.
Teenager.
Didn't have a good support network. Comes from no money and prioritizes being happy over being financially secure, because you never know how long you're going to have a dollar, so spend it on something that's going to make you happy now. It's something that people who come from generational wealth, they don't understand that concept. And how can you explain it to someone who went to private school, who hasn't had a job, who's never had to worry about where their next meal is coming from, has never had to have the humility to ask to stay at a friend's house or at a complete stranger's house to just be on their couch? It's just the disparity, the cognitive dissonance is so disgustingly wide that, like, I can't help but resent everything about Colton in this moment. I don't know him personally, but his behavior, it so crossed the line that I couldn't stand it anymore. And
I don't want to know him personally after this.
I don't want to know him personally after this. And by the way, I'm just going to say this now. He does end up returning. I know that we usually talk about this when people get voted out. The fact that Colton was invited back is absolutely pathetic. I don't care if he came back and tried to do redemption tour like I was awful last time. No, you just don't bring him back. He can find some other way to apologize. Survivor production, you brought Colton back, and that was bad. It's pathetic and it's lowly, and I can't believe that you did it. This should have you should have handled it and moved on. Gross.
Don't give him this platform anymore.
So Colton, I've got nothing but bad things to say about you after what I've seen.
And we're not done. Because, Bill is black, and they're going to bring that up. Does that have something to do with it? And Colton's like, I'm not racist. I have black people in my life. Oh, like who? My housekeeper.
God.
Yeah, remember when I was saying, like, I actually found this entertaining and enjoyable? That was only when they walked in for the big reveal. Making it clear that enjoyment ended after they sat
instantly
down and Jeff's flabbergasted look disappeared. Everything after that was, I mean, to put it just very nicely, like, just not enjoyable. I could use some very strong words, but I'll just leave it as this was just, it was actually kind of miserable to sit through, just with everything going on. I don't need to go over all the stuff that you guys already did.
I feel so bad for Bill during all of this. Tarzan's going to jump in here, because Tarzan is sick and tired of hearing about race because we have a black president now. There's no more racism anymore.
Yeah, didn't you guys hear when Barack Obama got elected, we ended racism?
We did it, guys.
Like here's a high five to someone who's drowning. Like, oh. So I was just like, Tarzan, why? Why now? And
makes me wonder how he's doing in 2020 through 2022. I wonder what Tarzan had to say about it. Do we want to know? Maybe not.
No, I really...
I don't want to know.
I don't want to know. What year did One World air? Would have been 2012?
This would have aired in the spring of 2012.
So we're starting to enter into the politically charged era of modern U.S. history.
Yeah, we're not quite there yet. A few years away.
We're on the brink of, social media and fueling a lot of people being able to write whatever they want and with no consequences.
I don't know what Tarzan's up to these days, but yeah, this is not a great look for him. It's going to end up being 7 votes for Bill, 1 vote for Leaf, and normally I write down whether this was a good move or a bad move or not, and I just wrote, why the F are we here?
We shouldn't be here.
Shouldn't be here.
So I'm just gonna, it's a bad move because they shouldn't have been here, but literally everything else about it is bad.
I said no with a question mark because I just didn't know how to answer it.
For best player, it's not going to be a man. I have Sabrina because she was playing the peacemaker within her alliance.
I said every woman except Alicia. If I have to get granular, I'm going to give it to Sabrina for playing Harmonizer. Like, that's fine. But you can tell where my brain was because, I had every woman except Alicia because everyone who wasn't a part of this idiotic move.
Josh?
I'll go with her. I give a nice little special shout out to Jay since he was the only one to not want to go along with this, but it had to be unanimous. So Jay, you could have just said no.
And you should have. You could have and you should have. Worst player, I had Leaf. I just want to remind everybody, we can't give it to Bill. Like, I don't know. I'm not saying we would, but we don't give it to the person who gets voted out. So other people left. I gave it to Leaf. He revealed strategic information. He got caught up in the lie about it. He gave up immunity, and it's especially bad for him because it very well could have been him going. That was one of the stories going around. So I have Leaf.
So because I went in assuming that Leaf knew more than likely that he was safe and he was just trying to get Bill to agree to go to tribal council, I literally just gave it to every guy. Because none of them should be there, and I couldn't find a differentiating factor. Now, if you want to get onto the human side and say that Colton is the worst just because he's being an absolutely pathetic excuse, just this gelatinous invertebrate prick, fine. You can give it to Colton. He would more than happily deserve it, and it'd be warranted, and I'd sign off on it. But they shouldn't be here, and every guy had to sign off on it, and that makes every guy equally guilty. So I gave it to literally every guy.
Normally I would fight you on stuff like that where you don't pick one person. I'm not going to fight you because I don't have the energy or the capacity to care enough about this episode to do such a thing.
Well, past Josh gave it to Colton. This was really the first time that we saw, the things that he was saying switch from being in confessionals to being in public. So that was really the angle that I was going with, that this is going to hurt him socially just because all of this is coming out, not only at the tribe, but at tribal council. So it can be a positive. There's no way that that's going to be a positive for him. So, from a social aspect. So that's why I gave it to him and was able to ding him on a gameplay aspect.
That's totally fine.
Yeah, I'm not fighting you.
Give it to Colton.
Not fighting any of this. I think all three of us have very valid points.
So we all agree that it was the men's tribe. You can get and try and be granular, but ultimately this was just trash all around.
Yeah. This is just bad. Let's move on from this episode. And at this point, I was so burned out on the season. I don't care anymore. So all enthusiasm I had for the season was just gone at this point.
And no more rooting for the Monono tribe.
Yep. Just go all women besides Alicia at this point.
A big old no-no to the Monono.
Yeah,
I think it's the Monano, but it's the Monono now.
Yeah. Episode 5, a bunch of idiots. Yep. Accurate.
Yep.
Where's the lie?
So the girls all agree to form an all-women's alliance at this point. All of them. So what is there? 7 left. So we got a 7-person alliance going. Great. Good for them.
And we are all on that team.
Yep. Let's go there. Let's go that tribe besides Alicia. But we're going to get a tribe swap for the first time in a while. Since Nicaragua. So they're going to be divided into 2 tribes. Well, I'll get into that in a second. But basically, the winning tribe of the reward challenge will get to keep the One World camp. And the losing tribe will be sent off to a new beach. So I guess we're just done with One World by this twist. This is so dumb. Just keep it.
This is so weird. It's just it's the name of the season.
Yep. And we're just
if it was just Survivor, Fiji again, and you just had the One World twist happening, then it's okay, sure, you did it for a little bit, kind of like the Medallion of Power. It's just the Medallion of Power is no more. Sure, whatever. But this is your central theme to the season. You might as well just keep it the entire time. I don't get the point of it.
Even do a tribe swap. And then leave them on the same beach.
It'd be interesting.
Exactly. That'd be such an interesting dynamic.
This is such a misguided move by production. I really don't like it. But here are the new tribes. So it's going to be a very unbalanced tribe swap, which is kind of funny. They're referred to as the gods versus the peasants at this point. The new Monono tribe, who's going to lose, and they're going to have to go to a new beach. Colton, Jonas, Leaf, and Tarzan are all going to stay there. So 4 of the misfits, the 4 weakest misfits. And they are joined by Alicia, Christina, and Monica. They do have the strongest woman in the game, being Monica.
Real bummer for Monica.
Yeah, real bummer for Monica. It's not going to go well for her. The Solani tribe is going to stay on the new beach. And Kim, Chelsea, Sabrina, and Kat are all going to stay there, and they're going to be joined by Troyzan, Jay, and Michael. Yep, this is not balanced. That's what happens, though.
I love random tribe draws.
Yeah, you get some funny stuff like this. On the new Monona tribe, the men have the number, so Colton is going to take charge. He's going to try and convince the women he's working with them. That is not the case. He wants the men to stick together, which is smart going to the merge. We've talked about this before. If you have a starting tribe of X Factor, whatever it is, if it is like a one unifying theme, that could be men, that could be like heroes, healers, hustlers, and heroes versus villains. You know, if there is a unifying theme, that makes it more likely for that group to stick together. So you want to try and keep your numbers on that front. So the men should be trying to stick together, and the women should be trying to stick together as best they can. So Colton's going to try and do that here. He does form a bond with Alicia for real because they're both nasty. And so the plan is to take out either Christina or Monica. Poor Monica.
Yeah, these two fit together really well in not a good way.
On the Solani tribe, Jay, Troyzan, and Kim agree to work together, and they're going to bring in Chelsea as well. So they want to have like an inner tribe alliance going on. Kim gives a really good confessional, and this is exactly how you want to play this. She talks about how she wants to keep her options open. So she's saying like, hey, depending on how the wind blows and at the merge, you know, maybe I'll stick with all the women. Maybe I'll go with Troyzan and Jay. I have two options. I can go either way, and this is how I like to play. Just pick the best for me, but keep all my options open. It's exactly how you want to play Survivor. That's the way. This is the way.
Yeah, especially when you say those things not to people.
Yep. Say it in the confessional.
Say those in confessional, because you know if you're not in favorable numbers come merge time, yeah, hop over to play with some guys as a couple of other people get eliminated. But if the women have the power, then maybe you are able to just do an all women's thing, or just do it for like a vote or two until you can swap it around. Who knows?
Whatever benefits you the most. Kim is going to find the hidden immunity idol as well, but she is going to tell Chelsea about it to really bond their alliance. Again, don't love the telling people thing, but she does have the idol. Solani's going to win immunity to no one's surprise. So on the Monona tribe, Colton wants Monica out because she is the bigger threat. They tell Monica and Christina that they're going to take out Tarzan because he's older, physically weak.
And he can't be relied upon for anything.
Yep, because he has nominal aphasia. He has a hard time remembering names.
Which is hard in a game where you need to know who to vote for. He still thinks that Jonas's name is Jason.
Yep, which is very funny. And Monica's like, they're really going to go after one of the guys? That's a bad move. I mean, I'll go with it, obviously, but that's a bad move for them. Got bad news for you, Monica. They're not actually going to go after one of the guys.
You know, I have to wonder. They're on a new beach. I wonder if there was another idol out there that maybe she could have been looking for.
I highly, highly doubt it because there's two in the game.
I know there's two in the game. It was just something that, you know, she probably did go looking for something. If anyone did, we didn't see it. It is a new beach. It's a new camp. I would probably go looking, especially in modern Survivor. There's almost certainly something there.
1% of 1%, maybe.
Yep,
maybe
exactly.
Tribal Council, it's going to be 5 votes for Monica, 2 for Tarzan. I think it probably should have been Christina because Christina is weaker than Monica. Monica's the strongest woman. You know, Colton says we're not going to win any challenges. Okay, maybe. You don't know that. I mean, granted, there's an argument that be made that it's fine that they're not going to win it because then you could just take down the women's numbers. I think we'll talk about that in the next episode. I think you wanted to talk about that. But Monica's a tank. Get rid of Christina. Also, Alicia and Christina have had this feud. I don't know. Christina makes way more sense to me than Monica.
I actually don't agree with that. I think if you're the men, you absolutely keep Christina because they know that Christina's on the outs. Christina has talked to them about how she's on the outs. Sure. Monica has inroads with the women, so if you want to keep with the men, Christina's the one who's more likely to flip in the long run, especially if you help her out through this tribe swap situation. So as much as it sucks, and as much as I say bring her back because she got swap screwed, this is probably the biggest production twist screwing someone over since Michelle. At least that's the last big one that I can think of in my head. That's why I think it's better for the men to keep Christina around, especially because you know that she's not plotting or scheming.
Sure.
So I think as much as it sucks for Monica was the right move. Bring her back. She got swap screwed.
You know, that's a good point. I originally had said that I would have probably gone for Christina here as my first option, but I think it's probably good to go to look long term, and if someone is able to be flipped, then that's probably who you should keep around. If it means that you're going to lose a little bit, there's only going to be a couple of actual immunity challenges and vote outs before the merge. So especially if you have the majority, it probably isn't that much of an issue to try to keep around the really strong people. So I get Derek's point, and
sure.
Actually
he makes a good point
with it.
And by the way, I want to bring up one other thing about this being the right person. And this we have to rewind to the immunity challenge for a second. Why,
Derek, you already won this point.
Oh, why doesn't Solani throw the challenge and vote out a man? If you're truly women strong, this is one of the few opportunities where I think maybe a good old challenge throw in the right situation. Like, maybe if Kim makes no inroads with the men and they're not talking to her, and, we're very, like, original Solani, original Manano, just throw the challenge and get rid of a man, because the women don't have control on the other tribe, and you can keep them around by throwing it and then taking 4 women strong and just voting out the men and just throw every challenge.
The same can be said for the Manano tribe. Throw the challenge, get rid of a woman.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct.
They don't really need to throw it, but no, you make good points. Maybe it depends on how well the social bonds are made with the new people.
I think the argument both ways for both the men and the women is that the men, you haven't really been the most aligned this entire time. So to throw a challenge just to be like men strong, I don't think is a great idea.
Right.
And for the women, you had a conversation, just a little bit before this swap happened. Who knows how real that would actually end up being. You'd be putting a lot of faith into something that was talked about once.
Yeah, especially with the Alicia Christina feud that was happening earlier in the season. So that's a tough call to make for sure.
Yep, it was just something that I wanted to bring up because I love a good challenge throw, and if they would have done it and it would have worked out, I'd have been like, you know what? I don't hate this one.
If they had done it, I wouldn't have argued it.
Yeah.
So Derek, who did you have for best play of the episode?
It's Kim. She's keeping all of her options open. She's making inroads with the men on her tribe, and she found the idol. I don't love that she told Chelsea about it, but I do think that Chelsea and Kim are kind of attached at the hip, and I do think Chelsea's the one who's riding strategic coattails. So that's a situation that benefits Kim and doesn't really benefit Chelsea to rat on her right now. So all around, incredibly strong episode for Kim.
I also had Kim, same reasons.
So did me. So did I.
I'm
past Josh.
Keeping that in. How about worst player?
I had Alicia just because I do think that she gave in a little bit too easy on having Monica get voted out. But
I think she had to roll with it because she knew she didn't have the numbers.
So here's my thing. I don't think anyone actually played that poorly in this episode because I think that Monica was the right move. I can understand why Solani didn't throw the challenge. I think Christina did well enough to get herself kept around because, there was a good argument to vote her out, but she's like, listen, I don't have connections.
True.
So keep me around. And they do. It works.
So I gave it to Christina because she was left out of the vote. Just because Lisa got in and made that connection with Colton. Christina didn't really make a tight connection with anybody, so I gave it to Christina.
Just for being out of the vote?
Yep.
That's fair enough. I wouldn't fight you on it. I like that she saved herself by her attitude, but being left out of the vote is never good.
Josh?
Willing to back you up a little bit. Past Josh said Christina.
Okay.
So,
all right. I accept it.
Team Ryan.
Woo! Monica is going to play again, shockingly. I don't think anybody saw that one coming. Remember when she got announced, I was like, who? And I had to go back and check. I'm like, her? I know she got screwed, but really? Do we want to see it?
Yeah, she got swap screwed. So it's not anything that she did. It was a game mechanic that makes me want her to come back. So I tilt aside. Yes, I'm not like, woohoo, Monica, but I'm like, you know what? You deserve it. That was a very, very unfortunate situation. So sure. I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those, I guess. Yeah. I really couldn't care less if I saw her on the screen again. More just sure, see what happens.
I think that, so to spoil a little bit, she's going to come back on a blood versus water season, which we all know at this point. I think the reason why she is married to a former NFL player, Brad Culpepper.
Yes.
A former Minnesota Viking,
Former
Brad
Minnesota
Culpepper.
Viking.
I think that's why. Because we can get a former NFL player on the show. Cool. We'll bring Monica back too. Fine. I think it was Brad that got her put back on, not anything she did.
It checks a lot of boxes for okay casting, and I like Monica.
Yeah, she seems really nice. It's fine. I'm shocked it happened, but I'm not against it. I'm just like, okay, sure.
I want a Monica Michelle captain season.
Episode 6 is the final episode of the pre-merge. Hallelujah, we're almost done. Thanks for the souvenirs, the title. Alicia and Colton are going to spend the entire episode being nasty to Christina. They're like, hey, you're going to get voted out next. You can either stick around, get voted out, you can quit, or you can jump in the fire and get medically evacuated. Whatever's most convenient for you. Shut up. God, these two suck. Just laughing at her. It's horrible. It's horrible. We're just watching someone get bullied.
It feels like that scene in Mean Girls, I just want Christina to go nuclear and be in the convertible, you are a mean girl, you're a prick, you're done. Because I just don't, everything that Colton does now just fires me up, and I'm so ready for him to be off my TV screen.
Yeah, there's so much of this that's just, I don't know. When you think about the difference between like old Survivor and new Survivor, I feel like we don't get this kind of like mean, well, I'll say mean girl, but just mean person aspect of it. I don't remember the last time we've had like that type of personality on the show in like recent seasons. So I don't need this. I don't need this on my Survivor.
Yeah, I'm struggling to remember too, because 39 is also an ugly season, but it was not because of this. It was different reasons.
Yeah.
It wasn't people being just mean for no reason.
But I feel like you got that more commonly, and like in, I don't know, basically up until now, like it isn't the most uncommon thing. It doesn't happen often, but like we've had it quite a few times.
I feel like the last time we got this was maybe in season 30 with the Will and Shireen stuff.
I'll agree that's a memorable one. Nyanka gives off a little bit of that like mean for no reason energy.
Yep.
Russell gives off a different kind of mean for no reason energy.
Yeah. This is the kind of stuff I hate. I don't ever want it on Survivor. I know some people like the nasty, maybe not the nastiest is the wrong word, but like the drama, and that can be fun. But like I think everyone will agree this is too far.
Yeah, I think when you're telling people to jump in the fire,
yeah, it's just not okay. We get one very funny moment where Kat wakes up and she tells everyone, I had a dream that I was in a shopping mall and Alicia was there and she murdered me. Yeah, that's fair. Kat, be afraid.
That tracks.
That wasn't a dream. That was just her dying in another universe.
It's a Final Destination movie.
Some multiverse of madness stuff.
Yeah, the Final Destination. It's a premonition.
Oh, God. Watch out, Cap. So Christina talks to Jonas and Leaf to try and convince them to turn on Alicia because she has more connections on the other tribe. Christina has no connections. Allegedly, this worked, and even Colton was going to get on board. Apparently, Alicia was going to get voted out this episode, is what I've read. People have said that, including Colton, in post-game interviews. Like, yeah, we were going to take out Alicia just because we realized like she had those connections. Christina didn't. Alicia's more dangerous. Who knows? We'll never know.
This is the one time I think Alicia's meanness was from a point of strategy. Because she's going to slough off Christina and be like, whatever, you're, a dead castaway walking. You're going to try and just shake things up and cause as much drama as you can. I don't respect you. I don't like you. And then she goes to confessional. She's like, she's 100% right, but I can't let them hear that and let that be the last word.
She's going to walk up on them mid-conversation and try and call Christina out. Because she's like, I just told the truth.
and the truth shall set you free. So it's the one time, I hate giving Alicia any credit at all, but like it's the one time that there was some logical motive for putting on a show.
She has some strategic knowledge, but she just sucks as a person.
Yes.
So Colton starts to feel very sick. And Christina, he's been so mean to, comforts him. He lays his head in her lap, and she's just like, hey, it's going to be okay. Soothes him. Don't you feel like a piece of crap now, Colton? Like, screw you, dude. I hate this.
And the answer to that is no, he doesn't.
Probably.
He immediately comes back and says she's only doing this to try and save her own hide. Or maybe
she's like a decent human being.
Yeah, like maybe there's a line where where game is drawn.
The next day, Colton has to lay down in the jungle because he's just in so much pain. He's going to end up getting medically evacuated. We were told at the time it's probably appendicitis.
Yeah, acute appendicitis.
That's not going to be the case. It's going to end up being like a fairly serious bacterial infection of the intestines, I believe, or the digestive system. So it's not appendicitis. So this is not a quit, though. There's people are saying like, he just faked it to quit, and that makes no sense because he was in complete control of the game. There's no reason for him to quit here. Like that just doesn't make any sense. So people who say that Jeff Probst as one of them, that makes no sense.
Jeff says that's a quit.
He's gonna try and claim this as a quit because Colton is gonna come back. When that happens, he's gonna call Colton a quitter, and it's like that doesn't, like the first time at least, that doesn't strike as true.
Don't get me wrong.
Colton sucks.
Colton sucks, but I don't think this was a quit. He got pulled from the game, and that to me is not a quit.
Yep. He didn't have a choice. The doctor pulled him. So Colton has an idol, and Jeff asks him, like, hey, what do you want to do with it? Colton originally wanted to give it to Jay, because I think that was the person he was closest to in the game. Jay's in the other tribe. They wouldn't let him, which I don't like. I think he should be able to give it to whoever he wants. I think
that's stupid.
Should have let him give it to Jay. But they don't let him do that, so he decides to keep the idol, which I think is another argument in favor that they were going to vote out Alicia that night, and he was like, oh, just in case, you guys can vote out Alicia. So Colton's going to keep the idol. Both tribes end up getting brought to tribal council, And Alicia's like, hey, yeah, Colton kept the idol. He didn't take it out of the game. Everybody's like, oh, that's convenient. Sounds like something a werewolf would say. But anyway, none of this matters because the tribes are merged. We made it to the merge, and we're done with this crap.
Yay.
For best player, I had Christina. She had the patience of an absolute saint. She worked on Jonas and Leaf pretty well to turn on Alicia, and allegedly it would have worked.
Without any knowledge about anything outside of the edit, I still gave it to Christina because the truth shall set her free, and she did everything she could. I didn't know whether or not it was going to work, but it was either Christina or NA because someone got medevaced.
There wasn't much. There was a reward chunks we just skipped. Like, there wasn't much this episode.
Past Josh gave it to Christina, so.
What's really, really funny is, so Stephen Fishback, he famously would give out the Fishy Award to the best strategic move of the episode, typically is who you would give that to. It's kind of like our best play of the episode, but I like to think we include more than just the strategy side to it. So I think that's the difference between ours and Stephen Fishback's. But there's a whole list. Like every episode you get a Fishy. But he likes to be a little funny with it. Like there was one time in Samoa where the weather prevented them from strategizing, so they had to stay in the shelter and Ashley went home by default. He gave the Fishy to the weather in that episode. This time, for this episode, Stephen Fishback gave the Fishy Award to Colton's appendix. The best part of him. It just took him out of the game.
Yep.
Can't stand Colton except for his appendix.
I wouldn't wish appendicitis on anyone because that can be like life-threatening.
Yeah.
But I'm so happy that Colton is gone.
Yep, good riddance. I'm just glad he's not going to taint the merge.
He was poised to be around for a while. And, well, I guess some form of karmic justice occurred and he's gone.
Good. For worst player, I gave it to Alicia just for her nasty behavior. And we can't give it to Colton because he got evacuated, so Alicia. Dishonorable mention to Colton.
I ended up giving it to NA, honestly, because I felt like Alicia's nasty behavior doesn't end up hurting her at all, and I thought that her one outburst towards Christina was actually strategic, and so I was like, oh wow, there's actually a reason you did this. And someone got medevaced, and they're merged, so I was just like, NA. I'm just going to abstain from this.
Past Josh gave it to Alicia, so
fair enough.
there you go.
Cool. She deserves it.
You want to jump on board with that one?
Yeah, I can
stand your ground, Derek.
I can formally switch. Alicia is garbage, and and she's the worst player of the episode.
All right, so we're done. We're into the final 12. We're at the merge. We're not allowed to change our winner picks, but if we could, and this is the time where we talk about that. Derek, so you have Jonas. You and I both have Jonas. Would you switch, and if so, to who?
First of all, if the guys weren't such a mess, I would be totally okay with Jonas amongst the guys.
Sure.
The women have more unity going into this merge, so it's got to be you got to switch to a woman. And there's only two people that I think that I would want to switch to. It'd either be Sabrina or it'd be Kim. Mm-hmm. So going off of edit, Sabrina's been a no-show ever since episode 1 when she found the idol, and she's played Peacemaker a couple times.
Episode 2, she was elected leader,
but it's very clear that Kim's prominence in the edit is picking up. If I could switch, I would switch to Kim or Sabrina, but I'd probably switch to Kim if I could.
Josh, you have who? Chelsea? Would you switch, and if so, to who?
I'll stick around with mine. Kind of like Derek. Those would be the other two options of who I would go to. But we haven't seen a whole lot from Chelsea. But, out of pride, I'll stick with her.
I would switch. I would probably switch to Sabrina. Kim has been quiet. She's only had one real centric episode at all, and that was when she found the idol, which is great. I didn't like that she told Chelsea, and that was kind of my thought process, where Sabrina has been there, and she did a great job in the leadership role. One of the best leadership performances we've ever seen on Survivor. She got literally no backlash for someone in that role, and that's hard to pull off. So I probably would have switched to Sabrina.
And I do think that also puts a pretty big target on Sabrina's back. I think the women could come together, vote out all the men, and then Sabrina's got to be first to go.
Sure, that could happen.
And so that's part of the other reason I would probably jump to a Kim instead of a Sabrina.
That's fair. Those are the two in my opinion for sure. I went with Sabrina at the time, partially because I really liked her at the beginning of the season 2. But we're stuck with who we got: Jonas, and Chelsea. Let's get into best and worst player of the pre-merge. Derek, who is your best player of the pre-merge?
So I actually landed on Sabrina for all of this. I felt like whenever, first of all, she got into the Majority Alliance, she had a great social game. She played Peacemakers. She found an idol, was forced to give it up, gave it up to absolutely the correct person to cause the most chaos at the men's camp. And I think arguably Sabrina indirectly caused every bad thing that happened at the men's camp because Colton ended up with so much power with that idol. And that move alone is going to bring the women into the post-merge with a leg up. I mean, Colton getting the idol gave the women indirectly a free immunity because the men were dumb enough to give it all up.
Yep.
So
spoiler, it can't be a man for best player of the pre-merge.
Yeah, so it played absolutely impeccably. And then, again, I think the women in general are more solidified going into a post-merge situation. And I also think that, all things considered, Sabrina is pretty low on everybody's radars because it's going to be men versus women, I think, at first. Plenty of targets ahead of time. She's not a front runner to get voted out immediately come merge time. So I have Sabrina.
I could not have said it better myself. Everything Derek just said, it's Sabrina.
I disagree. I gave it to Kim. When I watched this, a lot of the same reasons as what you guys are saying for Sabrina. I'm kind of surprised, Derek, that you're going against your typical pre-merge philosophy because she's been a lot more obvious of a player and out there, especially being in that leadership role. Yeah, she's handled it well, but it kind of goes against your thought process up until this point.
So that's why at the end of my thing, I kind of threw the disclaimer out there. It's still very much a men's versus women's situation. And by her very nature of being on like this women's tribe that was seen as like a lesser tribe at the beginning, there's no way she's coming into the early portion of the merge with a big target on her back. So like if you can get halfway into the merge without having to worry about immediately getting voted out because you put too big of a target on your back, I think that's adequate threat management while still putting yourself in a position to win. And I think that's the big difference. You know, I think if Matt were to somehow make it, I'd be like, no, I don't care what Matt did. I can't give him best player of the pre-merge because he's going to go into the post-merge with an absolute massive target on his back and get voted out first. So I think there's a very different dynamic that led me to believe that Sabrina played a pretty chameleon game as far as you could have done, given what happened to her, and then given the people who are left. So I hear what you're saying, and if I were looking just at the women's tribe, Kim played a more chameleon game, but I do think that Sabrina played overall a better pre-merge and is still pretty darn chameleon.
And I will say, so Kim also had an idol, so that kind of wipes that clean as like even. The one thing that pushed her over someone like Sabrina a little bit more was that she almost has like a plan B set up right now with the other men that are on her tribe. Who knows, Sabrina might have that too, but it seems like Kim really is thinking about that more. So I just like that, and it was kind of like a tiebreaker for me.
Okay.
Oh, I totally hear you on that.
Yeah, same. Worst player of the pre-merge. And a reminder, we don't give it to anybody who is eliminated in the pre-merge, so Colton is not eligible. So just to the 12 people who made the merge. Worst person of the pre-merge is a different story. Worst player of the pre-merge is the question. Derek, who you got?
I have to almost go backward. Who doesn't get worst player of the pre-merge? Kim doesn't get it. Sabrina doesn't get it. Chelsea hasn't done enough to get it. There's an argument for Christina for being one of the worst strategic players of all time. There's an argument for Kat for literally making her alliance regret being in an alliance with her. There's an argument for Alicia for being the most confrontational and being mean for no reason and just being generally a bad person and honestly was next to go if not for a medical emergency. There's literally an argument for every single guy for one really big, stupid, obvious reason. I honestly really have no idea who to pick. I'm at a complete loss. I want Ryan to go, and then I might just agree with him. There's only 3 people or 4 people that can't win this.
I ended up going with Alicia overall. You know, she got in that majority alliance 5 minutes in. I don't want to give her much credit for that. You know, they got to the point where at least one person in the line, Sabrina, was considering turning on her because she was so tough to be around. She's got a horrendously bad social game. She blew a couple of challenges. You know, you can make an argument for like all the guys. Leaf, I think, would probably be the worst player of the guys, but at least Leaf has a decent social game. So if you picked Leaf, I wouldn't be mad at you. I ended up going to Alicia.
Gosh.
Because, you know, and part of that is because I do have the knowledge that she probably would have been voted out in the last episode of the pre-merge. And it was just saved by Colton's medical evacuation. But if you don't take that into account, maybe it'll be different.
Derek, if you need some more reasoning, I also wrote down Alicia as my worst player. So shout out to me and Ryan for being awesome.
Yeah.
And I wanted to give it to a guy, but they really had that one terrible moment. But there wasn't really that much outside of that. And that one huge one doesn't outweigh the numerous bad moments from Alicia. One word that Ryan didn't really say was toxic. I think that would describe her as well. it really just pushed her over the rest of the guys for me.
I can see it. My bottom three are Tarzan, Leaf, and Alicia. I'll defer to you guys and say Alicia. I'm honestly just so lukewarm on picking a worst because there's very little good gameplay from anybody this season. Like, don't get me wrong. Sabrina is playing an excellent game. Kim is playing an excellent game. Jonas is playing an okay game, except for, that one horrendous move to go to Tribal where he knew he was in no danger, but still utterly stupid.
Jay, doing okay?
Yeah, I didn't mention this in mine, but I gave an honorable mention to Jay and Troyzan.
Okay, I'm not going to.
I would never give an honorable mention to Troyzan because he was one of the biggest supporters of giving away immunity. You get no reason for this, dude. Anyway, so I'll go Alicia, but there's just a lot to choose from. The bottom of the barrel gameplay.
So we've talked about how much none of us have been fans of this pre-merge. Before we go any further, is there anything anyone else wants to say about what we witnessed? Or are you guys good?
The one thing that we didn't really mention was the one other big thing with Colton.
Oh, yeah. I tried to block this from my memory. We did kind of mention it. Colton does play again. I assume nobody here wants to see that.
No.
Absolutely not. And I already went off on how I think that production is pathetic for bringing him back in the first place.
Okay, weather report.
There's one really, really bad storm.
Really bad one.
And it was a miserable one of the worst that I've seen in 24 seasons of Survivor. But other than that, it didn't seem like it was too bad. The fishing is good. The food situation seems to be okay. Overall, not too hard, but one really bad storm.
This was filmed back with South Pacific. You can tell this one was the rainy season because South Pacific had nothing.
Yes.
All right, last thing we talk about, most memorable moment of the pre-merge. Josh, our memorability consultant, is here to tell us what is the most memorable moment of the pre-merge. Josh, what do you got?
All right, so we got a couple of nominations here. Overall, obviously the one world twist, the entire beginning, the first episode is just highlighted by the theme. I'm not going to pick something like that because that's stupid. So the other two really big ones are the men volunteering to go to tribal council, specifically when they walk in to tribal council, and then the Colton medevac. Those are really the two finalists, at least for me in the pre-merge here. Other than those two, are there any ones I might be forgetting?
So I have one, and we kind of yachted through it because, who cares? Because it had no implications. But Tarzan has now said the game is afoot. 5 times.
Yeah, it's a catchphrase.
And so that is something that's maybe really big in our friend group where we'll often say, the game is afoot. And we'll say it all the time on this podcast. I never knew who we were quoting. Now I do.
I mean, isn't that Sherlock says that?
I'll say I never really was quoting Tarzan.
Yeah, I was quoting Sherlock. Or I guess I always thought Sherlock said that. I'm pretty sure he says it. And I think Tarzan is quoting Sherlock.
Tarzan might be quoting Sherlock, but I only know that quote in terms of Survivor. I've never seen that in on Reddit in Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's subreddit.
Really?
Yeah,
interesting.
If I ever say it, I'm quoting Sherlock, not Tarzan. My nomination would be the episode 4 Tribal Council.
I think that one should win. Yeah.
It absolutely is going to win. It's
For
when they
reasons.
give up immunity, specifically when it's the big reveal of them walking into tribal, just reaction, all of that stupid stuff.
Yay.
It specifically is the volunteering to go to tribal. Everything that happens after that is almost it's almost blocked a little bit more from my memory. It really is overshadowed by the stupidity of everything that comes before it. So at least from my perspective, that's a good thing for me. So I don't have to remember that as much, but just keep that in mind.
It's self-preservation.
I lump it all together into one horrible mess. Well, that is the pre-merge of One World. Next time will be the post-merge of One World. Hopefully it will be a little bit better than this garbage. Do you guys have anything else?
Nope.
All right, you can follow us on Twitter at Castaway Pod and follow us on Instagram and what is the other, TikTok as well? Yeah, follow us on
and
all
YouTube.
That fun stuff. And YouTube. You can watch the podcast on YouTube and see our beautiful mugs. All right, this has been the Castaway Consultants.
Got nothing else for you.
Good night.